Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and future autonomizers, and current graduates, current students, administrative staff. Shadow host James Cordinaire, host here for your autonomy quest tonight, Mr. Phoenix Aurora, graduate of season 6. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my absolute pleasure and an honor to be presenting tonight's autonomy quest. We're going to be doing interviews with the man, the myth, the legend, the autonomy professor himself, Mr. Richard Grove. And I am extremely excited for everybody to get an opportunity to get all of your questions answered in regards to what your concerns are for your time coming through autonomy once you guys do sign up, and for the questions that some of the current students have that are currently in the process of graduating. I know that there's going to be a lot of questions that everybody has. This meeting should last for at least a good hour and a half, if not until probably we'll go past the half-hour mark. So stick around for that. We have a lot of goodies in store as well. I've got several little items to be throwing out at the end of our meeting that I'm sure you guys will love. And right now we're going to cut to a clip. And I hope you guys all enjoy this. It's going to give a bit of an origin story for the autonomy course and really give you guys an idea of the background for what Richard's goals and dream and vision really was. Mr. James, run the clip.
You've now experienced the first step of the ultimate history lesson. We've done the hard work of organizing the facts, and now it's up to you to think, learn, communicate, and take action among yourselves. But we don't expect you to do this alone, and in fact, since this message applies to all of us, it's truly a circumstance which unites us and makes us indivisible, so that we might deliver freedom and justice, not just to ourselves, but to people around the world. If there is a point to all of this, it might be in realizing that the system isn't broken. It was built this way, on purpose. It serves those who created it, not those who are managed by it. As a result, our potential as human beings has been undermined. Our birthright has been stolen, and our adolescent period of life has been extended indefinitely. We have been numbed to these facts, which have been obscured further by the 15,000 hours of public schooling, which is mandatory in order to earn the right to live and work in our civilized culture. We have been under the impression that public schooling was about educating us as a measure to prepare us for life. But those assumptions were formed based upon information supplied to us by our natural predators, who may dress and speak like us, but in their minds, intentions, and actions, they hold us in contempt. They manage us like livestock, and they poison us both figuratively and literally, as if we were pests. Each of us has a choice to make, and the question is, what is most important to us? Is it the products which money buys, or is it having a safe, happy, and healthy family? Unfortunately, it doesn't seem that we can have both in this culture. We must choose to either put our full support behind that which is most important to us, or face losing everything. I made that choice 8 years ago, and through the help of some friends, I transformed the materials around me into the resources which have delivered this message to you. In the minutes before Patrick Henry spoke into existence the phrase, "Give me liberty or give me death," in his speech to the Second Virginia Convention on March 23, 1775, he first addressed the convention's president, Peyton Randolph of Williamsburg. Quote, "For my own part, I consider it as nothing less than a question of freedom or slavery, and in proportion to the magnitude of the subject ought to be the freedom of debate. It is only in this way that we can hope to arrive at truth and to fulfill the great responsibility which we hold to God and country. Should I keep back my opinions at such a time, through fear of giving offense, I should consider myself guilty of treason towards my country, and an act of disloyalty toward the majesty of heaven, which I revere above all earthly kings. Mr. President, it is natural to man to indulge in the illusions of hope. We are apt to shut our eyes against painful truth and listen to the song of that siren until she transforms us into beasts. Is this the part of wise men, engaged in a great and arduous struggle for liberty? Are we disposed to being of the number of those having eyes, see not, and having ears, hear not, the things which so nearly concern their temporal salvation? For my part, whatever anguish of spirit it may cost, I am willing to know the whole truth, to know the worst, and to provide for it." End quote. So, if you realize that your family and/or community was in danger, how would you make them aware of it as a measure to protect them from the peril? Well, once you meet and surmount the mental obstacles by employing your use of reason, it would then be logical to organize the facts, connect and communicate with your loved ones and community, to learn together how to dispel confusion, how to take informed constructive actions, and when you meet resistance, how to learn your way forward. It doesn't benefit anyone to continue to sanitize the world for our youth, as it prevents them from developing a strong immune system and thereby undermines their chances of survival in this world. To that end, as I mentioned in the introduction, we've also created the ultimatehistorylesson.com, which specifically hosts the YouTube version of this interview in video form, as well as the MP3 versions for your downloading pleasure, as well as the transcript, references, notes, links, primary source materials, and every other piece of media associated with this interview set, all with the goal of helping you to understand. And while this all might sound like a good idea, most people need a little help outgrowing the habits which enable us to be so easily manipulated. In order to help each and every individual tap into their internal natural resources, we created tragedyandhope.com, which acts as a next step for those who seek to learn more after screening our productions. Now that you've heard John talk about the book, Tragedy and Hope, A History of the World in Our Time by Dr. Carol Quigley, you'll indeed appreciate the fact that we've created an international network of independent media producers, all of whom consistently provide educational films, podcasts, and video reports, commercial-free and free to the public. With over 1,400 people from all over the world posting videos, posting blogs, forming study and research groups, and learning the arts of intellectual self-defense and strategic problem solving, we have built a truly unique experience which has thus far been denied to the general public. And it is in every way designed to help you realize your birthright. In this last hour, I was surprised to learn about John's key role in helping Yoko Ono get approval to create Strawberry Fields, a section of Central Park in New York dedicated to John Lennon, across the street from where he was shot in front of the Dakota Hotel. We've done a lot since creating Tragedy and Hope in 2009, so let me share a bit of synchronicity about how all this began. These are the last few pages of the premiere issue of our interactive magazine before it evolved into an interactive community of critical thinkers. I'd say that not only have we come a long way, but we've also stayed on track, and I think that's reflected in the synchronicity of these full circle moments. We're serious about studying the big problems, identifying the root causes, and enacting constructive solutions. And we sure could use your help. And in return, we'll help you catch up on what you've been missing. We must ask the questions: can we have peace without understanding the root causes of war? Can we have liberty without the responsibility and reason incorporated into our actions to bring it about? Why aren't we preparing our children for their lives? Why doesn't public schooling prepare us for the fact that we are entering a world where there are predators and systems of predation to be avoided? And in learning the answers, we've found that it's due to the fact that the predators designed the public schooling system. It's time to reclaim our birthright, and this interview is aimed at delivering it to you. What you do with it is your choice. Figure out how to teach yourself anything by asking substantial questions and identifying valid answers. Help us create a network of affiliates and continue to spread this message of self-liberation. By understanding the problems, the solutions become known. The truth is the future, and we want to see what the world looks like when you develop the habits which reveal your inner potential. Last but not least, learn how to use the active literacies to liberate yourself and share what you've learned with others. Because the world is made up of words, and if you know the right words, you can make of the world what you will. Go and do likewise. Be persistent. Refuse to give your consent to irrationality, and realize that in your heart and mind, that we are only victims until we mature and take responsibility for our thoughts and actions. And to that end, keep learning, keep moving forward. Thank you for tuning in and not dropping out.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you guys all enjoyed that little video, the little teaser treat. But as that was just the teaser, we do have the real thing here with us now. Mr. Richard Grove, how are you doing today, sir?
I could leave you hanging, make you feel uncomfortable, have you try to fill that silence. Or I could say, I just got back from the time machine. How you guys doing? That was nice. We were having a barbecue tonight. We were having some friends out at the picnic table, and we were watching me from 2011, it looked like, and all having a good laugh about how time passes. And yeah, that was a cool clip.
Yeah, I think that was definitely, that intro video definitely showed a strikingly young Mr. Richard Grove. How long has Autonomy been in production? Like,
Well, Autonomy's been in production since 2019, but the making of it, the baking of
yeah,
it,
like
the
the
construction
concept.
of it, like 2008, it became apparent that we needed to, like, not just to know about the problem, but we needed to do something to fix it. And if they took things out of our education system to break it and make it into schooling indoctrination by the state, then whatever they took out, we should put back in. And then you start to learn, what did they take out? Well, they took out context of history, and they changed some of our history around, so we don't really know. And it looks like it's a lot friendlier with maybe one of our allies than is really true. And they take away critical thinking, creative problem solving, being able to interact with older people. They, relegate people to speaking at a certain age group. And if you're in 8th grade, the upperclassmen will bully you, and you don't talk to lowerclassmen. And so, it's no longer learning and being mentored by the students that are a little bit ahead of you. That was a one-room schoolhouse type of dynamic that really made pioneering America strong and self-reliant, because the school teacher would have like 30 kids in there, but the older kids were mentoring the younger kids, and there was a whole helping each other mentality, as opposed to 30 people listen to one person in the class and nobody's allowed to help each other. That's called cheating. So in the real world, it's called cooperation. It's something we need to do as adults, but we're 15,000 hours of conditioning not to do that. Is hard for sometimes people to break those habits. So,
But I thought, Rich, that we needed the Department of Education. I thought this PhD system, this was the key to everything.
it's like, who would build the roads, right? There was roads before the government and taxes, and there was education before 1980 when Reagan brought in the Department of Education. I think that's when it goes back to. Americans had an education. Look, if you look back at colonial America, our literacy rates were like 92%. It was silly. So if you have a couple million copies of Common Sense by Thomas Paine being handed around, people got it and they comprehended it. It wasn't just literacy. It was literacy plus comprehension plus action, right? Like, this country was founded. I've heard a lot of people say in the past couple of weeks, like, because of the Trump assassination attempt, like, there's no place for violence in our political, system. I'm like, bro, our whole political system was created on violence, and we have a war economy. So stop gaslighting all of us, right? And this country was created because of a 1% tax on the breakfast beverage of American colonists. And they're like, down with monarchy. So the softness of individuals today is fully not because of our lifestyle or the lack of need for self-reliance and self-esteem and self-confidence and self-competence. It's because we're being colonized by an international foreign entity that wants to dissolve our culture in every way, shape, or form at every level. And it's been going on for a long time, and it's been very effective. Like, you can't say these people are stupid, because they do have a good plan. It has been working. It's just devious, unethical, against integrity, against creation itself. These people like to take beautiful things. They don't create things. They just invert and make chaos. So There's always going to be a place for that in the system, just like you always have entropy or inefficiencies in the system, but we could turn it down from a spinal tap 11 down to like a 2. And to do that, we need critical thinking, creative problem solving, individual assertiveness in a non-aggressive, peaceful way, right? So it's about learning how to live your life without plundering other people's production. Don't steal, right? But if you work, I think, I mean, like high level, Murray Rothbard in The Anatomy of the State quotes it. There's political means, and that's theft and plunder. And then there's economic means of production, and that's entrepreneurism. How to meet your needs without taking advantage or stealing from other people. How can you be non-aggressive and volitional relationships with informed consent and meet people's needs in an open market type metaphor that doesn't have violence or coercion as the next step if you don't follow the rules?
And that brings us to why we're all here today.
Yeah, why
the
are we
autonomy course. So tell me something, Rich.
Yeah.
Why do people need autonomy? Aside from the horrid excuse of an educational system that these elites have foisted upon us, what is it about autonomy that people really need?
They don't need it. They can keep doing what they're doing. If life's working for them and they're all cozy, fine. But I see far too many people who are struggling, who are working hard, who are honest, and they don't have a chance because they're playing in a rigged game that they don't even get like what they're doing wrong, and they don't know how to make the right results. And they don't get that, you know, they went through schooling and college and they have a career and they're getting a paycheck, but they still don't know what their offer is to the market. What is it they do that other people will pay you for? How much will they pay you? How easy it is to get employment? It depends on your skill set. And these are things that are not trained in school. They're not really trained in university. And they're only things that you can instill upon yourself through self-education. So you can go out to YouTube and you can watch a whole lot of stuff, and you can learn a lot of stuff on YouTube. Like I learn from YouTube all the time on how to fix stuff, for instance, right? But if I wanted to like open my own auto body shop or something like that, I would go mentor under someone who already does that successfully and learn what they know, right? And not try to recreate the wheel. So most people, they feel trapped because there's inflation and increasing costs, and they're not making their skill sets higher level or higher value to meet those challenges. And they think if they were going to do that, they would go back to school, which is just going to bill you for a whole bunch of stuff you don't need. Again, probably it's not going to be your first rodeo if you're going back to school, right? So in today's marketplace, in order to survive without taking away from other people, like communism, like there's a lot of people who are entitled and they want the government to pay for a bunch of stuff. Government doesn't create anything. They have to go steal other people's wealth and production to do those things, right? Those people can be served by education and not by a third party stealing from other people, right? So in every way, a lot of the problems we see between like homelessness and joblessness and divorces, all these things can be rectified by people just learning how to work the quantum computer between their ears and improve their programming. Because when you realize the program that we've all gotten was written by the government for the government's benefit, not for ours, it begs the question, what shall we do now that we understand that? And how do we program our computer, you know, our quantum computer, such that we get pleasing results? The first part is garbage in, garbage out. So if you are taking data from the mainstream media and you're saying and reflecting those views, you're already lost. You're lost and you don't even know you're lost. You don't know what you don't know. And you've never really started to think or process data in reality for yourself. And so that's a wonderful opportunity. I hope they kick it into gear and they start asking questions, and then they find meaningful and substantial answers in reality. But that's not how we're trained. We're trained to wait for the authority to tell us what to think or say, and then repeat that. That's allopathic medicine. That's the entire university and school system. That's the entire mainstream media system. That's the entire political system. And all of those things kind of serve the military industrial media complex. So
also kind of most of the entire current sales training system. Since graduating autonomy, I took a job, doing sales for a law firm, and I try to brush up on my ability, my skills, and almost every other course that I look at, it's all manipulation. It's neurolinguistics programming. It's
tricks,
crappy, tricks, just manipulation. It's nothing that's based in the heart. It's nothing based in care. So that garbage in, garbage out aspect really has just infested so much about the culture that we currently live in. It's outrageous.
I too have looked to improve my skills in the 21st century. I've gone through Grant Cardone's sales training. I would never use any of that in an actual client situation. I've gone through Dan Locke's high ticket sales program. I graduated from that. I would never use that on anybody, because it's about It's about you using your knowledge not to empower them, but to entrap them, to corner them, to pressure them. And these are all things that are antithetical to building relationships, trust, and problem solving, which is how you actually get successful results. So from the get-go, they're designed to get sales, but not satisfied customers with testimonials on the other side who are willing to tell two more people about your business or your service. And
Well, you've gone
so,
through.
yeah,
Go ahead, finish.
I was going to say Cardone, like he's famous for, like, I'm not saying throw the baby out with the bathwater. I'm just saying, I think he charges 25 grand for his sales course and it would pay for itself, but you would have to use those techniques. Like he's going to show you 200 closing techniques. You don't need that. Like that's a manipulative type of thing. It's like the neurolinguistic programming that you mentioned, or some of these other things that you can be successful if you have a loose definition of success that doesn't include ethics and integrity. You can be successful for a short time, but you're going to burn all your bridges and relationships and you're not going to build trust. And that's what every market transaction and exchange is built upon. So if you don't give people transparency to the point that they understand and remove their doubts, they're not going to move forward unless you do a clever close or you do a takeaway or one of these other like techniques. And I find if you just show up to people with the authentic intent to understand, listen with the intent to understand. Once you understand, you can see that you understand. They can verify you understand. Now we can make a better plan. If you make a better plan than they have, they'll probably agree to it because that's what they want. They want a better plan to move forward, and they want the actions on the other. They want the experience on the other side of those actions. So once you remove like the artificial barriers that exist, which are usually limitations of understanding, assumptions, predispositions where you've made a judgment before observing the situation, those types of things, everything else just clears out. It's like water going downhill. I don't have to force it. If I just remove the obstacles blocking its path, it does what it wants. It goes to the ocean, right? So all those other types of sales courses, though I went through them, I'm not using anything ever in my career prior to those courses like that. I've seen other people do it and I've seen them get big commission checks, but I haven't seen them be successful and maintain those clients outside of that corporate relationship. So when they go to another company, they can't call on that person because like there's been shenanigans going on, right? And you have to find new people. So it's like they're finding new prey all the time instead of building relationships where we can all watch each other's backs, right? The more competent, strong people of integrity around me with a culture of excellence, the better off I am, because it's weak, well-meaning people who betray you because they don't have the courage to stand up to bullies. They don't have the assertiveness to tell you, hey, I was approached by these people trying to get the drop on you, right? So you want to make sure that once you have enough self-respect to improve yourself, you're going to be hanging out with other people who are doing likewise, right? And not doing the crabs in a bucket where you are trying to escape the bucket as a crab in this metaphor. The other crabs will just pull you back in. So that's like a metaphor that's like mixed with reality. If you've ever gone fishing or done any of that type of stuff, you can notice if you have a bucket of crabs, one tries to get out, of course, the other one's pulling back in. And so then none of them escape. They're going to be resigned to their slavery together. A lot of people in society do the same thing. Or you could look at it as the metaphor comes from, well, it's in the course, so I don't have to remember his name right now, but it's the metaphor of the rope. And the slave sees the rope as something you're going to hang them with. The prisoner sees the rope as something they can climb over the wall with. So when you throw opportunity at people, some people are like, heck yeah, and they start climbing. And then the prisoners who are jealous and think it's a threat, they grease the rope. And that's why you have to learn how to like tie knots in the rope. So, even if people are greasing your rope, telling you can't do that, you'll never be accomplished, you'll never make it out of your position, whatever the thing is, like that negative talk, they are giving you sales pitches. They are asking you to buy. This goes on all the time. And when you learn sales, you can cut right through that. You're trying to sell me that so-and-so is the most popular because of these polls. I see this other data, and I know polls are used to direct people, not a reflection of what they think, right? So now you've got intellectual self-defense building up because of these problem solving and sales, interpersonal skills, and being able to recognize when a fact is representative of knowledge or some claim is not representative of reality is a big game changer, because a lot of businesses, some people trying to get one over on the others, which is why you have that phrase, caveat emptor, buyer beware, right? The version of that was on the Oracle at Delphi said, temet nosce, know thyself. In other words, if you knew yourself, you would not be going to this how would you say, monument run by priests where This woman sniffs vapors and tells you the future. Like if you had critical thinking and intellectual self-defense and you could learn anything for yourself, you wouldn't be going there. But if you don't, they have a service for you and they will gladly take your money, and she'll sniff some natural gas out of the ground and woo, tell you whatever you want to hear, right? So why did it go out of business? At some point, people were like, hey, that's bunk. Like the lady sniffing vapors really doesn't see our future. The priests are just using her to take our money. And then they went and found their own way and made like their compass and their map, and they could travel freely through reality on their own, right? So did I stay on point with your question?
I think you definitely did. But you mentioned the Grant Cardone sales process, and I had my own little Grant Cardone experience. I took the bait and I sent out for a little feelers to see how it was, and I had one of their top sales guys call me, and oh my God,
how much did he hunt you down? Because they have hunted me down before, and I'm like, dude, lose my name. Like I don't like how you guys go about it. Like they're not being polite. They were changing their numbers to be disingenuous. Like they were doing a whole bunch of bunk, like cringeworthy stuff. And so I finally took a call. I'm like, take me out. Like, I'm not interested in learning how to do business like this whatsoever.
Yeah, the guy was like 1,000 miles an hour. It was crazy. I answered that phone and it was, hey, how you doing, kid? What's going on? Let's get this done. And it's like, whoa, calm down, buddy.
Yeah. At what point is he learning about your problem, understanding you, trying to help you, acting as a fiduciary to make sure you ask the right questions and make a good choice and decision that you're going to be happy with? Was that going on during the call whatsoever?
No, that didn't happen at all. So with that being said, where did you develop the skills that you do teach within the autonomy courses? How did you develop these skills?
Technically, I developed them in college while I wasn't going to college. So it was like during my college years, but I already knew that the degrees that I was going to get in college, or because I had switched majors. So like there was that whole reckoning. I wanted to be like, when I went to college, I was already not very challenged by the curriculum offered, right? So for people in my situation with my type of academic record, it was go to med school or go to law school. And that's where you could do the best, right? Because sales is not on the horizon. No one ever mentions that as a career. So it's like, you can be a lawyer, you could be a doctor, you could be an accountant, a dentist, a couple other things. Otherwise, you're going to be working payroll, day job, assembly line type stuff, right? Engineering was in between, right? Right below like med school and law school's engineering. And engineers used to get paid a decent amount of money. Hold on one second. I got kids playing in the other room. I was just making sure that they could keep it down to a tone. All right. So I'm in that situation and I'm going through and seeing that I don't want to go to med school because the doctors don't follow Hippocratic oath anymore. Like my mom was a nurse. By then she was working for like healthcare companies and stuff like that. And I was learning too much about the system that I was trying to get into and how it worked. And it's like doctors are not in charge of the patients. The insurance companies are in charge of what the patients are actually getting treated with and medications. So that was out. Then I was thinking law school. So I took something called the pre-LSAT. So there's a law school admission test that everyone takes. So it's called LSAT. So I took the pre-LSAT and I scored in the 99th percentile, which I could have gone to whatever law school I wanted to. And I took it as like, well, not like a dare, but I knew someone going to law school and they were complaining how hard it was. And I said something, they're like, if you think it's so easy, you study for the LSAT. I'm like, I'll go. They're having one this weekend. I'll go take one. And I stayed out all night and I went and took the pre-LSAT and I scored, like, I forget what, like, I scored like a 172 on it. So anyway, I could have gone to law school. People said I had a good mind for like dissecting facts and representing things and like the common like lawyerly skills that parents who don't know any better think. So anyway, I considered that. And then it was somewhere around there that I saw an ad in the newspaper. So I spent a lot of my college time working jobs. Like I was a sous chef and I worked in various restaurants and did a lot of grill work. Those things aren't pleasing and they do teach you like you're in a hot environment for 8 hours at a time, doing something repetitive. And it tells you better up your aptitude and skills if you don't want to be doing this for the rest of your life. So I saw an ad in the paper and it grabbed my attention because it said, learn how to make $10,000 this summer. And it was aimed at college students. And I was like, I only make $3,000 a summer.
$10,000 is a lot of money in 1990s.
It was back in 1994 for sure. Now, I didn't know you had to put $5,000 in to make that 10 grand. I'd figure that out a couple meetings down the road, but I saw the ad and I said, I'm going to go to that meeting. and everybody and their mom showed up for that meeting. And by the end of that meeting, there was only like 50 kids left, right? So the 50 of us are now going to go through the interview process for, I don't know, only a few jobs. So I went through 6 interviews, tough interview. Like, I worked in the corporate world. These interviews were much more well-planned, organized, functional, structural. Like, they were doing different things at each layer to test you to see where like you're going to be able to perform for them. And so I went through all these interviews. They gave me the job offer, and I was like, sweet, I'm going to make 10 grand this summer, and I was working at that point in the summer. My buddy, his parents were from Laredo, Texas. That's how they said it. And they had a Mexican restaurant. So I worked there during the summers, and that's where I made my 3 grand. So to make 10 grand, I was like, let's go through these interviews. And so I got the offer, and then I told my parents, I said, hey, I'm not going to work at Taco Express this summer. And they're like, what are you going to do? I said, I'm going to run my own business. And it was like record scratch. No one in my family did anything but take paychecks. No one knew anybody who ran a business, right? You don't have the experience to run a business. There's a lot of risk to running the business, all this stuff. And they talked me out of it. And so I called the guys that I went through all these interviews with, and I made my excuse. My parents told me, and I'm listening to my parents still at that point, but that didn't last but a couple more years after that for a while. And then I came back into appreciation, but there was a time I thought I knew a little bit more than my parents. So at this point, they talked me out of it. My dad's like, why don't you be a crew chief for the, it's like outdoor painting. We did some indoor painting. We did some like minor reconstruction if you needed that stuff done to get the paint job, right? He's like, why don't you be a crew chief, learn the business from the ground up, right? So I worked for a couple of weeks as crew chief. And I, found myself up on a 40-foot ladder in the sun, getting stung by bees, and asking myself, like, why am I doing this? Because I'm not making 10 grand. I'd be making more money at Taco Express right now. And I'd be like eating nice all day and stuff, right? So after a couple of weeks, the guy who was running it, by the way, he was like, we went to school together, the guy who took the job that I was offered. And he said, I have no more business, so you guys got to go find other jobs now. And we were all like, dude, what the heck, man? Like, our whole summer was like tied up with, like, we just chose our job and we started working. So I thought about it. I called him like a day later, and I was like, I would like to buy your equipment, and I would like to buy any of the estimates you did. And he's like, well, the equipment I'll sell you. He's like, why do you want the estimates that where people said no? And I was like, just so I can learn how you did estimates, bro. Because I'm stepping into the business. I'm going to take that job. So I called that dude's boss who would offer me it. And, I ended up getting a position. I then had to pay. I had to pay 5 grand that I didn't have. But I knew I could do this job by this point. Like, I'd seen it. I'd seen it all, right? How to do it wrong, especially how not to do it. Get your people there and don't have the materials. Get your people there and don't have the owner, right? All these snafus. So I was like, I can navigate this. I borrowed the money. I was able to pay the money back, I don't know, in a month. It didn't take long. And I made a lot more than 10 grand. And then I ran that business for another year or two. And then I sold it to my brother, and because he was working for me as one of the crew chiefs. And then he ran it for a couple years. So that experience is not from learning how to paint houses. And that's not a metaphor from Kill the Irishman or whatever that movie was. We were actually painting houses, right? I innovated a bunch of stuff because that's how I am. So they taught us brushing and rolling. By the time we were done, we were like pressure washing and spraying and like doing a whole bunch of stuff instead of scraping everything. So anyway, that was very successful. I had perfect customer satisfaction rating for every job I ever did because I made a method and a system to get perfect customer satisfaction. I would come, I'd do your estimate, would make an agreement, no money down. I do the thing to your satisfaction, and then you pay only after you're completely satisfied and give me straight A's on a report card. We're not leaving till you're satisfied. Everybody's happy, including the crew, because expectations were set all around. So they knew if they cut corners, dude, you're staying an extra 2 days by yourself to fix this. Like, everything was, and so now out of that system, who's the dude that created that? Well, it's a guy who used to be the VP of sales for Xerox, which back in the 80s was like the biggest sales company in the world. One of the hardest sales teams to be on was Xerox and IBM and those places. So this guy's name was Neil Bradley, and he's probably in his 50s, maybe early 60s back then. He's passed away now. And he said, I'm quitting Xerox. The universities are not putting out people we can hire as salespeople. I can't be successful using what's coming from the marketplace. So he saw it as an entrepreneurial opportunity. He went to colleges. He made the interview system to find us. Like, here's the ad, here's the interview system, here's the sales training system, here's the entrepreneur training system, here's the marketing training system, here's the hiring and firing, HR, taxes, all that stuff. We learned it on weekends while other kids were like going to spring break. We're at home, like writing estimates for painting a fence. Oh, you got 2 miles of fence? Okay. How do I fucking estimate that, and figuring that out? How many gallons? 200 gallons, and it's a lot of money to paint a fence, by the way. It is tedious work. And like, so you learn all these things and you're getting real experience. And then I go back to school and I'm completely bored now because I know that everything I'm signed up to and paying for is like not going to take me anywhere. Right. So there was a point where I would go home on weekends from school to keep doing my business because I could like, hey, I can paint a deck this weekend and make $1,000, or I can pressure wash, or I could do these various things in the fall that are harder to do during the summer. And you don't want to like give up a big paint job for a little 1-day thing, right? But you work these 1-day things, or you sub them out to my brother and his buddies, right? So that was all good experience. But what Neil really did for me was he showed me there was a way other than like paycheck land, right? Like, he made such an impression with the training. And there was this one point when they were teaching. So we're still being trained. We haven't gone into the field yet. This is the second year because I missed the training the first year because I didn't take the job. So now I'm back. I've been successful, but I still have to go through the training. So there was one day, I don't know, we were out too late partying and I'm in college, right? So it's like, you got what you do today and you got what you do tomorrow. And sometimes what you do today blends into tomorrow. So I wasn't feeling good. And this guy, Steve, he calls me and he's like, Rich, we're here at training at this big conference center at the university, like a corporate conference, not a student conference, like a corporate place that you'd pay $100,000 for the week or have your corporate conference there. So that there's super nice facility. And he's like, yeah, we noticed you're not here. I was like, oh, Steve, yeah, I meant to call you guys, but I can't, I haven't been able to leave the bathroom like all morning. And he's like, oh, we have bathrooms here. Like every excuse, Phoenix, that I tried to give this guy, he took away. And I was so inspired by that he got me out of my apartment to go. And I remember like, I made it through most of the day without a house. There was a couple bathroom breaks and stuff, but like, he was right. He was right to talk me through my bullshit, because basically he's like, as long as you keep taking your own excuses, like you're not going to make the progress you want to see. And like, I hadn't listened to a lot of books on tape or been exposed to public speakers or motivational. Like, so when he said that, I was like, dude, you're right. And I listened. Then I went, and that's the day that Neil Bradley was speaking. And I got to hear all this from the guy who had like invented the system. And he had such good public presence. Like, he was serious, but he had a sense of humor. He was serious about us improving ourselves, but you could tell he did not need the money. Like, he did not need to be there that day. Like, he didn't. He could be out playing golf, but he had gone to that, place. And I'm sure like he does make money from that. It was like a $50 million company at that point. They had like 30,000 kids from all across North America, United States and Canada that were in that franchise system. And there was people like a couple thousand that did the regional manager job that I did, and branch manager, stuff like that. But that set me apart, but I didn't know what to do with it yet, Phoenix. So now I'm in college. I'm making good money during the summer, but I'm making fuck all during the year. It's like, it was still a grind, because like, like once you get the summer, you know how to make money. But you go back to school, it's like, how do we do it here? Is there places to paint? Should I start a painting crew while I'm going to class? Like, what am I going to do? And I was nearing graduation. So it's like January of 1997, because I graduated in May of 97. I never went to graduation because I'd already been working for 2 weeks at a job far exceeding my expectations. So January, I had no plan. I had these skills, but I didn't know how they translated to the market. I didn't know that the market valued these skills. I just thought I knew how to run a painting business. And then I had a buddy from high school that we played hockey together and we won state championship. And he's a year older than me. And he had gotten a job as a salesman at a software place in Princeton, New Jersey called LogicWorks. So I drove out from college. It was like 3 hours, and I went to see him. It was a whole different environment. Like, here's a guy like 1 year older than me, They got a sweet apartment. They're all driving nice cars. They have a kick-ass job. They have a great social life. Like this is the next step you want right after college is something like this. So I'm how do you what do you got? What's your qualifications to be in sales here? Because no one has a degree. And he's like, yeah, that's the whole thing, dude. No one has a degree.
You
And
didn't get
so,
tainted by the PhD
I
system.
kind of knew, I'm like, if my buddy can do it, I could definitely do it. Because I've run a business. His family owned a business, but I've run a business, right? And I've done sales. I haven't seen my mom and dad do sales. I've done sales, right? So I was like, I could do that. And so I asked his boss, I said, are you guys hiring? He says, we sure as heck are. They're always hiring because when they hire somebody good, they get rid of like the bottom of the barrel, right? And there's always people that need to be churned out, but they don't have someone new to come in yet. So they sit there and they keep getting paid, right? So I made it through. That was a tough interview process. There's like 2 or 3 people in that process. But then once I got that offer and I was getting commission and like my whole environment changed. I could afford a really nice apartment. I could afford a nice car. I could afford to eat wherever I want. I could afford to go to New York City every weekend. Like all those things. Like if I would have got an engineering degree, it was 35 grand a year you can get with that, like working, right? This was a 6-figure skill set right out the door because I did student painters, right? Because I put in 5 grand in my own education and developed just a little bit differently than the tens of thousands of people I was graduating with, right? So yay for
Well,
me for reading the paper one day, but I didn't read the paper
amen.
usually. And to be honest, I was looking for bar specials that night, I'm sure.
Well, in regards to those skill sets, there's so much more that you do develop within the autonomy community and the autonomy ecosystem, other than just sales. There's executive skills, there's problem solving. Who is this course really designed for? What's the halo client? Who's the number one client that autonomy is for?
You don't know this, but I'm creating something called the Autonomy Primer course, and it's going to replace what was called the Autonomy Obstacle course. Do you remember that, Phoenix? You might have gone through
Absolutely.
that. I
Yeah, I
tried to
love that.
print out my outline because there was something like on page 3 I wanted, and my printer ran out of paper. But the page that did start printing on page 9 was who this course is for, right? So anyway, that's a spoiler. I don't want to spoil it. Who the
Hope you
course is
guys got
for?
screenshots.
Yeah, you can try to decipher that. The course is for people who want to grow now or need help now. And that's generally like what we're trying to find through this process. Through the process, people become aware of autonomy, somewhat educated, through email. For instance, if you get on the email list, it's going to educate and nurture you, but not try to be like, put your credit card in now, click buy right now. It just wants to get you to a next step so you can have informed consent, complete transparency, have your questions answered and remove doubts, and then you can make a choice, right? And we don't offer autonomy to the public because the public's a wild and crazy place. So we need to make sure we have a community of
Yes.
people with self-respect, a little bit of self-reliance, some politeness, attitude of gratitude, culture of excellence, no masters, no slaves mentality, these couple ideas that allow people from an international body of students all over the place, every continent except Antarctica is the gist. And they can be of different political beliefs, religions, nationalities, all these different things, but they can get along under these premises because we're focused on learning these things that apply anywhere at any time in human history, basically, right? And these are evergreen skills that bring people together and are meant to help with conflict resolution instead of like chaos and divide and conquer and all these other things, right? So if you're here and you're serious about yourself and you're here to learn and you're polite to other people, everything goes fine. And that's how it's gone for, almost 1,000 students have gone through the system, and it's been going on for 5 years. And we have had to add a few rules here and there because, stuff happens. Now we got to
Wrinkles.
make a rule, right? We
Got
had
new
one
life.
called, we had one time called the Ludvio rule, and it said you have to wear clothes when you come to a Zoom meeting because he did it from the bathtub one day. And we thought, who would ever do that? But now we have to have a rule, right? So like, that's just part of the growing pains of a business and any entrepreneurial endeavor puts you up for that. But my answer would be, let me just talk about leadership and then we'll talk about who this course is for. Because I wrote a piece on leadership as part of this outline earlier today. And it was like leadership and executive skills and ownership take a level of self-responsibility that a lot of people aren't prepared for. You are going to be disliked, maligned, subject to rumor, betrayal, all these things that are going to go wrong as a leader, as someone who's an owner, someone who's self-responsible for a group of some kind, right? But my point would be that stuff happens to everybody anyway, and you're not getting the benefits of leadership or being an executive or owner in any endeavor in your life. You know what I'm saying? So there aren't as many leaders as we need in our society because everyone thinks, oh, it's a bunch of hard stuff, but they don't see the good things that come with it, right? Like, and there's also downsides to the good things, as I pointed out. It's like you could be hated or you could be praised. Well, if the praise isn't genuine, right? If people are trying to flatter you and they're yes men, that's also not good. So there's like a balance to be struck, just like in most things, right? And the way things have been constructed, the balance has been swayed so that unless you know a lot more about yourself and the terrain than they tell you, you're always going to be under the influence of their rigged game. But it's, it takes 15,000 hours for them to rig it because that's how long schooling is. It only takes a couple weeks to undo it and start to mend yourself and strengthen yourself for the rest of your life. And the skills I learned back in college through that franchise system, I mean, they paid off 200x in the first 5 years I used them. They are the skill set that allowed me to remain in integrity and sacrifice a multi-million-dollar career to be a whistleblower and not really care about losing that career. I mean, I wish I would have had that career, but if it means interacting with people that corrupt, who are putting so many people at risk that aren't aware of it, like I want nothing to do with that. I don't need to do any of that to earn my way through this world, right? So it allowed me to keep my honor, integrity, my sense of self-worth, all those good things that we need to move forward. I would have lost those if I stayed in that job and continued taking that money. And so on that path, less traveled, I learned to read and educate myself and eventually to produce and share the things that I've learned. And by 2008, going back to your first question, I started to realize not only like there was an intentional subversion of our education system starting in the mid 1800s, going to this day and has spread around the world. Nobody else seems to be aware and doing anything constructive about it to bring a halt to it. And so it's not about fighting that system. It's a behemoth. It's well funded. It's well defended. It's about creating something new that makes what they did obsolete. And that's decentralized education, and that's the future. And while they're spending $1 trillion on AI, artificial intelligence, I encourage people to step up and spend a couple grand on their own intelligence while they still can provide value to the market and don't become a commodity that has to be like paid to sit in their apartment on some virtual reality goggles like Ready Player One.
So now that we know who the course is for, tell us a little bit about how you find these potential students. Where do you source your leads from?
Potential students find us. So we don't have any outward paid Facebook, Google type of marketing, YouTube, stuff like that. Like it's on the radar. Right now we have tens of thousands of people who have indicated interest in the course. And of course, it's not ready for everybody at the same time. So it's a good problem, but the problem is arduous insofar as we have to go into those thousands, send them various messages and videos to try to see who's ready now for growth or who's in the growth stage and wants to accelerate, because it's not just helping people start. Like we help a lot of successful business owners with multi-million-dollar operations gain more, efficiency and have less entropy in their interactions. And they're, the people that are fast movers, they're always improving. They're always learning. They're always doing new things to integrate. And once people like at the other end of the spectrum learn to how to get off square one and take some actions, take some failure, persist until you get the results you're seeking, and then repeat that process. Because as a teacher or coach or mentor, I have complete faith in you when I know you won't quit on yourself when you have an endeavor or goal in front of you.
Okay.
It's something to work toward.
So everybody runs into complexity. It is ever present and it never stops. It comes day by day by day. You're always going to have a new problem, a new obstacle to overcome. What kind of obstacles will autonomy help individuals to overcome?
Well, when the water don't work in your house no more, it will let you troubleshoot your water system like we had to do here a couple weeks ago. Right. So it's like anything from like mundane utility needs of living and surviving to mapping your wildest dreams to reality. The difference between a dream and a fantasy is that a dream has enough realism that if these things happened, it could manifest in reality. Whereas a fantasy is like maybe a unicorn or, leprechauns or something, right? And you can't really map that to reality with actions and goals and some communications. So that's the difference. A dream is we would like someday to have a pool in the backyard, and then like making that a reality is saying we're going to save $20 or $200 a month or whatever, start setting that aside and start looking at how much pricing is. Like you have a plan and you're progressing toward the thing, right? And it might take a long time or might, take a couple weeks, but it's still the same type of widget that you're cranking out. So the gist is, once you know the 3-step process to learn anything, and then the 3-step process to troubleshoot and problem solve, and the 3-step process to create, and the 3-step process for getting things done, and the 3-step process for conflict resolution, and then you learn it's all the same 3 steps, everything like collapses down from complexity to, oh, my car is broken, I don't know what's going on, there must be a part that I'm not familiar with that just stopped functioning. Fascinating. Now we're on a discovery tour. It's like Indiana Jones, but for cars, right? And you're like, oh, there's this thing. And I've gone this long and I've never known about that part, but now I know about it. I know about its function. Or one morning we woke up, this was like 10 years ago. We probably had guests too. I woke up and the house was cold. And then I had to learn about the thermocouple on the furnace. I had never experienced the thermocouple before. I had to learn a new word, right? Know what it is, what it looks like, how to remove it, how to size a new one, how to put it back in, all these good things, right? So you're using this process not just for high value sales and having a career, you're using it implicitly or explicitly, if you want to, every day, just by it's the best tool you could grab for the situation. Like if there were better tools, I'd be picking them up. I've been around and I've got money to pick up tools, but it's like the simplicity of just having like one Swiss Army knife for life, and this handles all these problems. Now you know why they don't give it to you. They don't want you playing with that. You could challenge society. You could challenge their ideas. You could challenge their narratives. You could threaten their control. So we better dumb people down. And it's been going on a long time. And I have dozens and dozens of books of they, them, those in their own words. As Fichte laid it down, education should be to obscure reality from students and keep them docile, right? That's Bertrand Russell in 1952, The Impact of Science on Society. So there's a bunch of people from the elite upper crust of non-elected rulers who have precipitated down their ideas, like the PhD system. You might have heard of it. It's very authoritative. It's artificially created in Prussia. And then they imported it to the United States because they're like, look, these people won't, to use a modern metaphor, they won't cross the street unless the sign tells them to. We want that over here. How do we get that over here? They want obedient control. And that's not a freedom. Like, I don't want to control anybody. I would like to be left alone by they, them, those who can be easily named. But they keep creating systems and saying you can't do this. You can't. When will people learn to like draw your line, be assertive, and push back? Only if they cross your line. But you're standing the line. And without that assertiveness, freedom goes away. And at this point in history, we would be responsible for freedom going away forever, because once they put robots and AI and technology between their Elysium and we the people, that would be really hard to overcome that. I'd rather it not get that far where we have to like mess with the ones and zeros and turn it. Like I thought Terminator was a warning, but they took it as a business plan. They're like, let's do that Skynet thing. So we're in a race. I don't think the universe created humanity so that we would be subject to silicon artificially created entities by psychopaths and sociopaths who don't understand freedom in the first place, which is why they want to destroy it, because they are fearful people in power, and real people of substantial intelligence aren't threatened by ideas they don't understand. They are invited by those ideas to understand them. So it just gets back to like the only war that has ever gone on in human history is the war waged to suppress consciousness, and it's waged against people who seek to express consciousness. Learning these aspects allows you to navigate the game board a lot more readily with less unforeseen pitfalls.
So we know what some of the obstacles are that individuals can overcome if they develop the skills that are available to them within the autonomy ecosystem. What have been some of the obstacles, aside from naked individuals in the bathtub, that you have had to overcome throughout your process of creating the Autonomy University?
Well, having gone through schooling and just followed the curriculum like a good little student, I didn't put enough time when I got to high school to keep creative ideas thinking, right? I, because of the, I don't know, chart of aptitudes, like they didn't let me go to art class. They sent me to Latin class for 4 years and stuff like that, right? So arts and crafts and stuff like that, that weren't going to earn me money in the marketplace. They weren't part of like the curriculum. However, that's a major part of being successful. Creative problem solving. And if you aren't used to thinking creatively, then that can be challenging. So I had to become familiar with my own creative process. And first off, I'm a procrastinator. And so people will be like, well, David Allen, don't you just know? Well, what happens when you do those things and plan them ahead? Like they're stale and they're half baked and they're not well composed. My procrastination actually serves me as I think about a topic to present or a concept to produce. Like there's ideas and then you get notes and then they get an ordering and then they coalesce. And then like me writing it is like printing it out. So of course I wait to the last minute to print it out because otherwise it's like not really composed and organized to my understanding where I could articulate it out to the audience, right? And somewhere during that process, it could be a 6 months editing a documentary process. It could be like a 3-day making a presentation process. Somewhere during that process, my brain, my little voice will go, you should just quit, right? Especially like if it's a computer problem and I'm completely in over my head and I don't know how to do it, it'll say, you should just quit. And that's one time when I'll give it satisfaction. During a computer problem, I don't know what it is about how our brains are powered by electricity and the computers are powered by electricity. But if I have a computer problem I don't understand and I'm getting all wrapped up in it, quitting on it works. Here's how it works. My brain says, you should quit. I said, yep, quit. I'm done with this. I turn it all off. I unplug it all. Done with this. And then I wait about 2 minutes and then I say, but what if? And then I go back and play with it because I'm completely relaxed now. I gave up. I've given up all that fear, all that stress. And then I come back with a creative idea. But what if I try this? Shit works, dude. I don't know how it works, but that's the thing. Over on everything else, creative process wise, I get to that point and it says, it's not worth it. The return's not worth it. You should quit. Any of those type of variations. Cause like your ego gets nuanced when, it's like always trying to work its way through. And I'm trying to like make it in my, your ego should be your amigo, but you don't want it in the driver's seat, right? Like you can tell me about something you see on the road, but you're not choosing which like exit we're getting off, right? So it'll say something like, you shouldn't be doing this. You should quit. And right there, I stop and I smile because I'm like, oh, this is going someplace. Like the universe is giving me a counter offer. Here's a distraction. Here's an excuse, right? And if you persist past those things, usually there's something really good on the other side. So I get to that point where I'm like, I have quit before in that learning curve, but I've learned to stick around until I see the results. And I know the results are right on the other side of that little excuse that makes us quit on ourselves, right? And so that's why each season, when I'm teaching you guys about the learning curve, it's like you need to stick around until you see results. And you need to prepare yourself for that. Even though it looks like it's really easy, it's going to get hard right here. And you're going to want to quit, talk yourself out of it. And that was one of the biggest things for me to know. My artistic process includes procrastination, condensation, distillation, printing of that thing. And in the middle of that process, there's the option to go do something else, right? Hey, there's a new comedy thing on Netflix. Don't you want to do that? Like it's like the universe offering you counterfeits. And if you insist on what you want to see, it will eventually work out with your actions. But if you take the counterfeits, like you're going to be going all over the place because you're not following through to the results you want to see in that situation. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. So everybody gets different dopamine hits and verification, validation from the various objectives that they accomplish and the tasks that they complete. For you, what excites you the most about starting a new season of autonomy?
Well, first off, teaching the seasons are a lot less rigorous than between seasons. So like when the season ends, a lot of stuff begins and there's all sorts of stuff that has to be done by the next time a season starts. There's house projects. There's like traveling to see family. There's business projects. Like we just kicked off a project today the next cloud project. So we're getting onto our own servers, and that's been like something we had to put off until we had these other fires put out. So it's like you want to get to handling your overhead and like every day to the point where you can get to the middle part of that process and say, what can we refine? Where can we get a couple more, wins of helping people? And then like the last phase is like the cruising altitude would be, what's our big project for next year? What's our big event for next year? Who can we start to introduce to each other's audiences to get this all to catalyze and people to realize, and right, the more blue sky planning. So that's kind of how it works. If you get caught up in your day-to-day operations and you can never get to the enhancing operations and growing them, then you're always going to be static. So I try to like mentally overhead type stuff, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, growth. And like, if I get in my schedule to the Friday, Saturday planning, then it's like, what could we be doing for people next year or 10 years in the future? Because some things take time to like put the seed in and let it grow.
Okay. Well, I've got a few more questions before we open it up to questions from the participants and the viewers. So for everybody that's aware and watching, I want you to be aware we're going to be opening it up here soon, but I want to give everybody an opportunity, make sure that we don't need to take any breaks. Anybody
No,
need
I think
to refill water or anything?
We are taking a top of the hour break, I think, because I saw it queued up over here in the production chat. Then we'll come back. You can finish your questions, and then I can deal with questions from anybody else. But you've been doing great, Phoenix. Does anyone here know your origin story?
Well, I know there's a lot of students, former students and graduates in the
I'm
in the
talking
gallery
about people
currently,
here
but
who
now
don't know the origin story.
for those that don't know my origin story, I can definitely kind of kick that out in a quick little moment or two.
Save it for after the break, because now it creates a sense of mystery. But yeah, if you would articulate how you met me, I think that would illuminate for a lot of people, like how far you can go and how fast you can go.
Absolutely.
Because you're someone,
but with that being said,
you're one of many in this room who I know won't quit on themselves.
Not unless I know it's something that's not worth the effort. Because there's been things that I quit, but man.
For sure. Yeah. I don't mean like as an extreme. I just mean like when you have a focus and you need to do something, you now have the follow through to make sure that you get it done. And that makes you very dependable from other people's perspective. And then a sought after resource value utility that you're providing in the marketplace by being the better version of yourself, the more flourished version of yourself.
I definitely have to say that I have changed drastically. It's been a striking difference from 3 years ago.
You were wonderful when we met, but you are a new, improved man. I will say that. All right. So looks like, is it James going to play the clip?
Yes,
Gordon,
sir.
are you on here? Let's see.
Yep.
Putting him on the spot. How you doing?
I'm doing well, man. How are you?
I still want to get one of those shirts in blue because mine's black.
Yeah. Let me see if I can figure that out for you at some point. Send a link your way.
I won't distract you right now.
Yeah, not a problem, man. I got the video queued
And then
up.
how long is this block?
Approximately just under 12 minutes.
All right, 12 minutes. Anyone here, if you need to use the bathroom, get something to drink, all that good stuff, that's fine. If not, we've got something juicy for you. And I will see you on the other side to continue the interview with Phoenix, who's doing a wonderful job, by the way. Thank you.
Always a pleasure.
See you soon.
I am a student of season 9 and graduated, but I did not do any vlogging last year, mainly because I was too shy. This year, and I'm willing to face the camera. So here I am. I was like a sponge, stiff and dry, with nothing inside of it, deprived of what knowledge was needed to unlock the potential that I was born with. My brain just wandered off one day in 1960 when I was shamed for doing something like using my brain and thinking, and learned that early moment on that thinking and being curious and being creative just wasn't important, at least not to the people who were around me, like my teacher. From the day we first got into this world, we started learning. And you've probably learned a whole lot of things, and so have I. But we've been deceived into believing that once we got out of school, there was nothing else to learn. And unless you were born with a deep-seated desire to learn and to read and had a great curiosity, you probably also just fell into that. And believe what you believe what you've known, believe what you've been taught. And don't really think beyond that. There's so much more. You don't know what you don't know. Who am I? I am a retired person who had time on her hands, and because of the extreme change of things in 2020, I had to stop working. So I had no social life and just was on the internet surfing away and found a thing called autonomy and was fascinated. And I was absolutely enthralled with Richard Grove and his intelligence and his knowledge of history, which I love. And then when I found John Taylor Gatto interview and listened to that and realized I'm not as stupid as I thought all my life, and maybe there's a possibility of getting something that's left inside of me out into the world. What I realized was, in retirement, autonomy was just an illusion. As long as I just had my Social Security to rely on, I really wasn't secure if they decided to pull that away. So I decided that autonomy would offer me skills that I could put to use and bring out the best of me and actually make myself autonomous. Despite everything around me that was going on, I would be okay and I could take care of the people that I love. Before I came to autonomy was that I just couldn't talk to anybody. I couldn't be understood by anybody. And I'm sure it was the training that I got in school and how I learned to be around others and just be a quiet little girl. I'm not quiet anymore, and I'm going to be hearing a lot more from me. So I look forward to doing these blogs on a regular basis and hope you enjoy them. Right now, I'm visioning that I will be no longer that stiff sponge. I will be full of knowledge and skills, and I will be so full that it will be dripping out of me and I can give it to other people. Because that's what life is about, is caring about people, teaching people what you know, giving your skills to others, and they give theirs to yours. That's what autonomy is all about, and that's why I love being here. This is my second season, and last season I was at every single lecture, every single Q&A, every single thing that was going on. This season, I have not been able to do that. The reason why is because there's so much more that's going on in my life right now because of season 9. I've got a new passion for video editing, have started taking a new course in learning how to do that well, and it's all because of autonomy. Autonomy gave me a vision, a passion, and something that I really think I can be very, very good at and put to work in my future and become autonomous. I just want to tell anyone who's out there listening to at least investigate autonomy and what it's all about, because it can give you a whole different lifestyle from this day forward. I fortunately came across autonomy, which gives us a whole different way of thinking and a whole different way of learning, and opens so many avenues of things that we never even realized were out there that we could be participating in and making a great living on. So I would highly recommend that you check out Autonomy and see what it'll do for you. Thank you.
I'm excited to be part of the autonomy community because I know that working for oneself, being on your own most of the day, it's easy to slip and go into self-doubt a lot. the autonomy community has been helping me to keep motivated and moving forward. I am trying to launch my own practice. That's a result of season 9. But before I launch into doing that, I decided to try and create a training course for young architects, because if I need to hire somebody, I would like to have a resource to tap into to make sure that they know what they're doing going forward, and they can have some self-direction and autonomy in their work so they can be better satisfied. I'm not sure I will ever get to have employees, but if that's the path, maybe that will be helpful. And that course actually will be launching probably tomorrow with ads on LinkedIn. I would like to start by this vlog with a lot of gratitude. I'm really grateful for where I am today. Starting from being a little girl in Italy with no prospects for a career or any professional future. And here I am, licensed architect in the US, and prospects. With prospects, I'm grateful for having the ability to think critically about what information is presented to me, and I'm so grateful for having found autonomy and all of the doors that it opened for me. Training and going in business for myself. I am grateful for where I'm at. I've had the desire to be more autonomous with my food production, and here I am with a very successful season of growing my own food and preserving it, and really undertaking the homesteading path, which I never really, I don't know, I ran into a lot of obstacles before, and finally it's paying off, and the level of self-sufficiency is astounding once it takes off and you have the system in place. I think I'll leave it at that for today. There are surely still more challenges to overcome, and I will work at that slowly. One of them is definitely organizational level of my space. But at this point, I can still be very productive within it. I just need to get in the habit of keeping my space more organized consistently. So will be the challenge I will be working with through Autonomy Season 10. And in the meanwhile, my days are already full, and I've been enjoying all of the autonomy activities and the new season fellow students, and I will see you around. And until next time, bye.
Ready for something crazy? If you spent time in the standard American school system from kindergarten through high school, you've spent 15,000 hours of your precious life in a classroom. Shocking. But yet, look at where we're at. Many of us feel totally ill-equipped to function in this crazy, overwhelming, hyper-competitive world. We get anxiety at the prospect of adulting, and entrepreneurship totally just feels like a pipe dream. This is the thing. I found a resource that has made the hugest world of difference for me and my journey of confidence, self-reliance, and success in an unpredictable world. It's called 19 Skills for Success That School Never Taught You. It's a free resource that I consider to be totally priceless and has taught me many of the skills I need to know to be flexible and to succeed in a world full of uncertainty. Who knows what the next few years could bring? I believe that you were made for more. And if you could succeed without these tools for self-reliance, wouldn't you have done it already?
And we're back.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Had you had the skills, you would have succeeded by now. So this is what we're here for, a little bit of autonomy. Rich, got a couple more questions left to
Hey,
go
before you do that, I want to show you real quick. This is they, them, those who they know that you have potential, and they've taken these strides to make sure your potential doesn't come out. We have something like, where's Common Core over here? This is critical thinking taken from schooling. There's some big nonprofit groups that were involved and, tax exempt foundations and stuff like that. But if we could just get down to, the evidence of the situation, like the Common Core State Standards Initiative is made by a guy who's a Rhodes Scholar. Now, if you don't know what a Rhodes Scholar is, or you think they're just some highfalutin, high aptitude, Oxford American scholar type situation, there's a little bit more of an agenda there, because if you were to look into the last will and testament of Cecil Rhodes, there was a plan for world government and world domination spelled out in his will, part of which was bringing America back into the British Empire so they could achieve that endeavor. So when somebody who is educated in the line of philosophy of Cecil Rhodes and they create Common Core standards, I bet that fits in with their plan for world domination, since this is now a worldwide recommendation for the indoctrination of children, not just in America. So these types of things are, very interesting, but knowing about them doesn't solve the problem. The problem is a rigged game. And the question is, what types of skills do you need to insulate yourself from the negative effects of that rigged game to be able to have a life of prosperity and a lifestyle of liberty with your family, right? Those are the main questions. They, them, those are going to do those things. How do we live our lives and stay insulated from that as much as possible? Or how do we take effective action and form groups to defend our self-defense in those situations? But please go ahead, continue with your questions.
Well, along those same lines, Rich, those they, them, those that love to dumb down free humanity and make us cogs in their system, they don't want us to go through courses like autonomy. They don't want us to have the amazing skill development.
They want you on TikTok. Short attention span.
Scrolling away. So kind of towards that concept, I want to understand, I know I kind of asked this in a different, I kind of reframed this with my previous question, but for you, what are the highlights of creating and delivering autonomy to the masses?
Well, it's like saving starfish. You can't throw them all back in, but the ones that do get saved do appreciate it. And so we're changing the world for the better, one mind at a time, without violating anyone's free will or denying them informed consent, which is about like the frontier or border of where my freedom ends. So to my opinion, I'm doing as much as I can, as fast as I can, for as many as I can that show up, because I'm not going to go, chase people down and drag them. You can't drag, what do they say? You can't lead a horse to water, right? Or you can something like that.
You can lead a horse to water, but you can't
make it drink. You can lead a person to knowledge, but you can't make them think. That's what I mean.
Well,
it wouldn't be
I want to
volitional.
get to the questions from the participants and the gallery here that we have.
For sure, but they need to know your origin story, dude.
Exactly. I know you want everybody to know what my origin story was. I'll be brief.
And then we'll get to karaoke and the breaking through to the other side. But I want to start with where you were when I met you.
So when I first found out about your work and autonomy and everything, I was a little neophyte, anarchist, watching a bunch of videos for Ernie Hancock. I would listen to.
Now, when you say anarchist, can you define that? Because that means a lot of different things to people.
As somebody who simply does not believe that there should be rulers, individuals telling you how to live your life. It doesn't mean
so. In essence, no other human being has more rights than you do.
Exactly.
Okay.
it's a very simple concept. Most people try to,
Some people don't have
hide
special
it
rights.
and shadow it in excessive complications, but it's really just, self-ownership. But I was a little young individual coming up through these concepts and these ideologies and learning the various ins and outs of being a consistent libertarian anarchist. And I saw you do an interview on Declare Your Independence with Ernie Hancock discussing the trivium, and I was like, oh, this is really cool, but let me put that on the back burner because that seems like a really big topic to dig into. And then I saw, maybe a couple of years later, I saw an interview with you and Brett Bennett. You guys were discussing the trivium. I was like, dude, this is really cool stuff. I need to get into it, but let me put it on the back burner. I'm gonna do something else. And I think it was 2020. It was COVID year when I met you up at the Pork Fest at the Porcupine Freedom Festival in Lancaster, New Hampshire, up in northern New Hampshire. And you were there. You were doing amazing. You had an awesome setup, a hub essentially before we had the hub system, and you were hosting talks with some really high profile individuals. David Friedman, that's my economic crush because I'm a nerd, but was who I actually was able to interview this year because of Autonomy. Thank you very much. And it really inspired me. I was doing spray paint art at the time as kind of a little side gig to mainly just to develop something to do with my kids because I had a really rough relationship with my children. Since my youngest was 2 and my oldest was 2 and my youngest was 6 months old, I had been in and out of their lives, whether it was leaving to join the Marine Corps and be a hoorah voluntary murderer for good old Uncle Sam, to going to Detroit and leading the Detroit Threat Management Center, to moving to New Hampshire as like part of the Free State Project. I was always in and out of their lives, so I really destroyed my relationship with them. And when I found Autonomy, it was still rough, but I was doing that spray painting art. And we were talking, and I had a little conversation with Lisa Manfredi, who used to do all of the onboarding and the Rainmaker calls and the blueprint calls. And it really was something that I realized, I have the time, the means to do it now, and there's really no reason for me to stop. So I signed up for Autonomy, and at the time, my job, I was driving all over the country in a Sprinter van, literally living in a van down by the river, doing expedited freight, delivering God knows what kind of freight to anywhere in the country. There was one time I drove from LAX to Miami over 3 days, and it was grueling, but pretty sure I was carrying cocaine. I don't really know. It was the same tire that would go back and forth. Who knows? But yeah, I was driving all over the place and started getting into the Autonomy course and really just kind of dove in head first because I had 20 hours a day where I was just driving, where I could just consume massive amounts of content. And between the plethora of additional content that's available in the Autonomy course, I started digging through the Peace Revolution podcast and got up to, I think, episodes 53, something along those lines. And those
Nice.
are 20-hour podcasts. So that's a lot of time spent listening to your voice.
But it's lifetime education that's evergreen. So
yeah,
good for you.
It's beautiful. And so through that, I had a conversation with a buddy of mine who made me realize, you know what, I need to just get off the road and go back home. And between that conversation with him and a breakthrough Q&A session that we had, where you helped me to realize that, having this shining armor of libertarian philosophy, being 100% consistent anarchist is great, but it's a lower value than my family. Because the only reason that I wanted to be a consistent anarchist libertarian was to have freedom for my kids. And if I'm putting that above my children, it's not right. And I had to completely realign what I was thinking and the values that I had in regards to my family and liberty. And I was squeezing out to liberty so tight that it was like a rose.
He was avoiding going to like a kid's event because he had to wear a mask.
Yeah.
And I was like, bro, just wear a mask and go be with your family. And that was a big breakthrough, even though it's a small step, right?
Yeah. I didn't want to go to a haunted house because they required me to wear a mask. And I was like, no, I'm not wearing a freaking mask. I'm not doing this stupid stuff. I'm not going to comply. That's the right thing to do, is not comply at all, ever, whatsoever. And I was like, you know what? Maybe it's a little bit more important to be in my kid's life than being a consistent anarchist. So like, because of that, it completely changed the entire trajectory of my life. I came home, I started developing my relationship with my children. I took a job back at the bar where I was at, and then I was doing catering stuff. And then out of the blue, I saw, you know what, let me try and apply for this sales gig on Indeed. I was just kind of scrolling. I was like, oh, they need salespeople at this law firm. And I was like, well, do I really want to work for a law firm? Like I'm an anarchist. Are they even gonna hire me? So I took a shot, I applied, and I decided, you know what, they're not gonna hire me if I just tell the truth. Well, no, they hired me. And I've been working here for about the last year and a half, it'll be 2 years on my birthday next year in February. And I've sold almost 1.7 million in legal services, and blew all of their sales records out of the water. Was the only person to sign on individuals for their platinum estate planning packages. And, you know, I quite literally tripled my income, which somehow doesn't really work. Thanks, Obama. Good old inflation. Still feeling like I'm in, minimum wage, which is okay because I know this is just a stepping stone. I'm not going to be here forever. Thank God these guys let me use their office, especially for today. But and I'm extremely grateful for them. And I truly do appreciate the attorneys that I work for. But I know that if something goes wrong, it doesn't matter. I can go anywhere. I can do anything. No amount of challenges or struggle is ever going to keep me down. I'm just the last couple of months after PorcFest, I've been hit with complexity after complexity after complexity after complexity after complexity. My vehicle broke down. I had to buy a new one. That one broke down. Now I got to push start my vehicle. And it doesn't even matter because it's like, whatever I need to deal with, I'm going to deal with it and I'm going to get over it and I'm going to move forward. And that's all because of joining Autonomy.
Now, aside from the 1.7 million in revenue that you generated for that firm, how has that firm benefited from your autonomy experiences?
I wish they were more open to it, but I've brought up Autonomy to the lead attorney several times, and I don't know why he won't bite on it. I'm probably not selling it to him properly.
No, I'm not saying it like that. I'm just saying, like,
he,
you did a lot of time in sales exercises and dojo exercises to give yourself real world experience to the point where you could just go apply for a job and they give it to you and then you outperform their expectations. That was you putting yourself in those situations. Like, I could have those dojos open, but if you don't show up and do the workout, like, you're not going to get the job at the law firm, right? I don't need a job at the law firm. So, like, you showing up for yourself consistently till you got those results. And then you were like, hey, let me just try this thing without a lot of care attached to it. That's probably another reason you got the job. And you were able to do so with being honest and transparent with them.
Yeah.
And they said yes. So now, oh, I don't have to lie to people to get what I want, right? This is major steps for most people because they do think they have to, like, lie in those situations to be better than they actually are or represent, it's like to front. You don't have to have that when you actually have competence and confidence, because if the job's not right for you, you can go someplace else and they'll appreciate your value just as much or more.
And it's hilarious because they brought on a sales individual to do outside lead generation. He does presentations at various places, and he's been in sales for 40 years. And like the first month or two, like, it was lie about this or lie about that or misrepresent this or misrepresent that. And I'm just correcting him on everything. I'm like, no, I'm not doing any of that. What the heck is wrong with you? No, that's not how I'm doing this here. That's not happening. And like over time, he has developed a more authentic, honest sales perspective and method as well. So, how has it affected the law firm? Well, it directly affected him. The attorney as well.
When it affects their reputation and customer satisfaction as well. So maybe they should thank you.
Well, that's all about deliverables. And unfortunately, I can't control deliverables at my level.
Oh, that's true.
A lot of the sales process that I have, like, I can't even really do an action plan. I can't build out an action plan because that's what the attorneys have to do. My job is just to help them make a decision and qualify them.
Yeah, for sure.
But in that area, I can still do it with 100% integrity and providing value and making sure that I am their confidant, not just their salesperson.
For salespeople who don't know the art of ethical sales, that sounds like a unicorn to them.
Yeah,
they're like, exactly. I want to believe, but I've never seen it.
That was my path towards autonomy. And with that being said, the last question I really have before we get towards the questions in the gallery is, Rich, what happens if we don't have autonomy going into the future? If the future is lacking in autonomy, what is that? Well, let me rephrase it. What does the future hold for humanity if we don't have autonomy?
It's a Venn diagram with only one circle because all the other circles have stacked on top of them, and they're all just dystopian science fiction movies, but they're going to do them all at once. That's what I'm serious. I was like, Each one of them has a slice of what's going on. When you put them all together, it paints out something very unhuman, not, something that we want our kids and grandkids to inherit from our actions on our watch as we, maybe did or did not do something with our responsibility. So we all have, what was the quote? I was listening to a Jack Spirko talk. He gave a wonderful 12-minute pitch at I don't know what conference it was, but it's on his YouTube channel. And it was like everything you need to know about entrepreneurism in 12 minutes. So I was like, I'll click. What am I going to learn? And he told this story at the end, and it was called the hyphen story. And so I guess when he was in the military, there was this guy that was in management, and he had just transferred. And so this guy was giving his leaving speech. So he never got to be under his command. But he's like, what this guy said made me want to go follow him and be under his command. And basically what he's saying is, like, all you have is your hyphen. That's the only thing you can manage. You can't control when you were born. You're not going to control likely when you die. And all you can manage that is that hyphen in between. And that hyphen's getting shorter every day. And Jack was saying, like, if people had like some metric where they could see like your time and energy and accomplishment, capability on this planet is ever waning because we're dying ever since we're born, right? That people would be more assertive and take action, and that there were philosophies. This is getting away from his video, but I know that there were philosophies like in Rome, bibamus moriendum est, death is certain, let's have a drink, right? They had this whole morbid culture of like reminders of death in their culture so that they could appreciate life, right? So it's not like, so there are those elements of human beingness of the past where we had a much more responsible meta view of our full cycle beingness. And today it's just like people existing week to week, and they don't know what's around the next corner, and they're in anxiety and frustration and aggression all the time, and they don't know how to get out of that. That seems like a lot of work. Do you think it's more work to be successful? I think it's actually less work to be successful than to be caught in those eddies and loops and recurring loops that crash the machine.
Yeah, but so many people are stuck in that victim mentality. They don't know how to get out of it. They don't understand how to get the
takes the will to
empowerment
survive
into their lives.
When the option appears or the opportunity appears, you have to take action. There's the Dan Pena video that we used to play. It's got a bunch of curse words in it, but it was like in one of the later lectures, and it's like there's a lion and there's all these gazelles running by, and the lion doesn't take any action, and then like this other lion comes by and just pounces in from out of the frame. And like, it's a decision of watching all your opportunities go by, or you're going to take action and get one, right? So I don't know. Nature is metal.
So without autonomy, we face brave new Fahrenheit 1984. Brave new Fahrenheit 1984.
I mean, I think Orwell said it best that, some animals are more important than the other animals, or more equal than other animals, right? That was the whole thing in Animal Farm. That's what's going on. It's a superstition that people hold that other people can have, more or different rights than you have as a human being in your capacity. So if you or I don't have the right to do that, this other group that has a name can't do those things either, especially not in our name with stolen money. I don't know. Am I talking around the point too much? Well, I'm just saying, Rich, unethical things are unethical things, and there's always going to be.
I think we've drilled down and explained and elaborated quite enough. Yeah. We've got a large group of individuals here that I know they're champing at the bit in order to get some questions in. So I would love to open up the floor to the rest of the participants in the gallery for preferably students and graduates. Hold off till some of the new individuals have an opportunity to ask their questions. But
I mean, to service people who are here for the first time, the best thing that I can do with my time for you is to help you gain transparency or to help dispel doubts. So do you have a doubt that the curriculum can work for you, or that I can deliver it, or that you'll show up for yourself, or get the results, or there's different doubts people have. If you have a doubt, the question gives a resolution to the doubt and allows you to move forward. If you don't want to move forward, don't ask a question. I guess that's the gist. All right, play ball.
So, ladies and gentlemen, the floor is yours, ladies and gentlemen. Who has some questions?
I have a question from a participant named.
What do you got, James?
Her name, or this person's name, is Stefana, and I would be more than happy to ask the question for you. But if you'd like to come off mute, then you're more than welcome to do so. But all right. All right. I'm gonna go for it in her place. So she or Stefana asks, what is the minimum age for autonomy? And it's like a three-part question. So what is
18.
all right?
Unless the parents are enrolled in autonomy, then they can accompany less than 18 to go through the course. And we
Would you
do have like Olivia's daughter, Juliana, went through and she's like 13 or 14 because Olivia was in the course,
Yep.
and they, could build that synergy between mother and daughter.
Wasn't
Yeah, I
Cody
think
pretty
Juliana was
young too
14.
when he went through?
Yeah, Cody was 18, and then after he graduated, then his mom enrolled, and now they go,
That's right.
now they're both graduates.
Would you consider this something that would replace high school?
I don't want to say it replaces high school. However, high school is not really going to teach you these things either. And these are the things that you need to know to build a skill, to make an offer to the public so you can support yourself. You can go get a job with the skill, but knowing how to support yourself with the skill independent of the job is really the ultimate balancing system. So then you have more free choice. And if you want to get a job, you can. If you want to leave the job, you can. And you can always be forwardly mobile.
You
And
know me, Rich. I'm never hesitating to push back or disagree with somebody. I would definitely argue that high school is a negative, and you need to drop out now. Like, it's not good for you. It's not a what was it that Rick Sanchez said? School's not a place for smart people.
A lot of things. Yeah. Yeah.
and before I turn it over to someone else, she asks, how do you navigate the normies, quote unquote normies, or do you just ignore that and go play your own game? Maybe I didn't emphasize the words correctly, but I'm sure
No,
you
no.
can.
So, first off, I teach my students what I do for myself, which is I don't compare myself to other producers. I compare myself to my yester self, what I knew and could do yesterday. And it's always a game of improvement over the yester self. And it helps me to stay real because how smart could I have been yesterday if I learned all this stuff today? Right. So from that aspect, normies are going to be normies. Some of them don't want to be normies. They don't even know they're normies, right? The way I differentiate is I ask questions, and either they don't have an answer, realize they don't have an answer, and they go look it up, or they don't have an answer and they are fine with their assumptions, and I leave them to Jesus, as it were, right? Because it's not my place to go wake people up if they don't want to be woke up. However, if you're looking for what's going on and you sniffed that there's more to reality than the official story, I've been doing this for 20 years, and I'd be happy to give you a tour around and show you all the sites. So I think that makes us, as a group of conscious people, all the better, fortified and empowered.
And ladies and gentlemen, I love it if you're sending in questions via text, but don't be afraid. This is a non-judgment
Yeah,
area.
in a Sunday
Feel free to
Q&A,
unmute and
everyone
jump
just
on.
unmutes, and there's mild stepping over each other, but they apologize. Like, it's just like, these are human dynamics of meetings with, we only have 60 people here. This isn't like hundreds of people. So you can just unmute and ask your question.
Yeah, when I was first going through the course, when I'd feel a little nervous, I would go, well, this is the challenge. This is the triggering of the complexity. I if I'm feeling
When
this
to
way,
talk.
maybe I should just unmute and get into the conversation,
One of the aspects of the autonomy ecosystem in the community that I absolutely love is the encouragement to mess up, to fail. You're supposed to fail first and succeed faster.
Can I
So
hit
if
that
you
real
are
quick?
afraid of misspeaking,
And if someone wants to ask a
do it anyways.
question, we can see if you unmute. You'll come up to the top. We'll be able to see that you're waiting to speak. It'll all work out. But let me say this for you guys. I'm not going to abuse your ears right now by doing a test, though I could do a test. But I've had a public fear for a long time of karaoke. And I have issued excuses for many decades. I got a lot of good excuses for not doing karaoke. I've made excuses at corporate events. I've made excuses at social events. I've made excuses when I was in another country and nobody even knew who I was. And fortunately for me, this past year, we figured out at Porcupine Freedom Festival with James and Phoenix, I said something like, hey, I think we could do karaoke on this PA system. What's your song? Who's up? And I was just joking around, and James and Phoenix get up and they start doing it. And then I was like, oh, geez, my graduates are doing karaoke.
I'm going to have to do karaoke. Oh, I'm getting my complexity triggered. But it wasn't a big deal because I think I was ready for it. So I had a lot of fun. Nobody complained. Nobody threw anything at me, which I considered to be a resounding success. And because I was able to like make myself vulnerable and feel comfortable enough to put myself at risk, because that could have been very embarrassing for me. Might have been. They might not have told me it was embarrassing yet. It opened the door for so many other graduates who were there to do a song or two or three or 10 people I never thought would get past their introversion and get up there, and they rocked it. Right now, Phoenix is not introverted. In case you guys notice, James and Phoenix, they have charisma, as they say. So when Phoenix got up there and he was going to do an Eminem song, I was partially incredulous. I was like, he's not going to do this song. And he owned it, and we played it in Grand Theft World to end, like, after we got back from the Pork Fest. And James had done such a extreme job that we were playing karaoke games like Follow Me and who's the better vetter and stuff like that. And he, at one point, what did he sing? Hey Man, Nice Shot. And he like blew out his voice so hard that I was like, if I try to follow that, I'm done. I won't be able to practice anymore. So I got bitten by the karaoke bug. I can now speak and sing on a microphone. I don't plan on changing my career. Don't worry. But it was a lot of fun. And we have done it several times with like families that come over for barbecue and stuff, because it's just set up out in the backyard under a tent. And when you want to use it, you plug it in, and kids are singing, adults are singing. People I didn't think would sing have sung karaoke out there and done it very well. So I'm just saying, if you have never tried it, it's not a mandatory thing for autonomy, but if you're a graduate and haven't tried it, you guys should try it. And that's all I have to say about that.
We got a raised hand here.
Yeah, we do have a raised hand from Stefana. Go ahead and jump in there.
Okay, so I'll speak up. Thanks for handling those questions for me, James. I have been following you for a while, Richard, and I think I found you through Gatto, the interview you did so many years ago.
Sure.
My oldest has graduated, he's 18.
Okay.
And I have been an entrepreneur for 20 plus years.
Mm-hmm.
Where I'm at, and definitely being like the term freeple, right? Those people that want free things. It's not so much that, it's just you offer so much, and it's like some of it's drinking from a fire hose.
Yeah, it's supposed to be like drinking from a tsunami, to be honest. It's designed like that, so I could satiate anybody's thirst.
And it definitely, yes, definitely. So the autonomy piece that came out was after I found you from trying to resolve my own confusion with the education system, with the world, with everything. And I had gone down Mark Passio and was in that whole world for a while. And as a mom, there's a different, I do feel still in that place of having to navigate the mainstream and show up in the mainstream as kind of going with the flow and not pushing up against anything. And yet I am all in with what Mark says. I know you know Mark Passio really well. So
yeah, I texted with him earlier today.
Yeah. So I'm at that cusp right now with my younger one now in high school. We homeschool. So they've never been in public school, nor will they ever be. But
winning.
The thing that I know that they still have to go and deal with this world that is upside down, inside out, turned inside out, and all of that. And okay, so my question about autonomy and why I haven't just done it since day one is because I have so many skills myself. I mean, I literally left home at 16 and started my own business, and I'm in my 50s. So the rest is history type of thing. I have so many skills, so many courses that I've done, trainings, blah, blah, blah. So it's like, oh, one more course, one more thing I need to sit through, and I can barely get through one of your Grand Theft on 2x play. And then I have to go back and like, what did you just say? I need to go research that book. So I really don't feel like I have the focus or energy to go through another course and sit with another course and figure, like, go through the checklist of another course again. When I'm, I have my business set up, I have a lot of things in place. It's not where I want it to be 100%, but I'm a bit siloed intentionally. I don't have a community of, I will say like-minded, but I don't need like-minded people. I just, because I also don't want to go in the bandwagon of a bunch of
Agreed.
anarchists, whatever. I mean, it doesn't matter. Call yourself whatever you want to call
You don't want to be in
yourself.
an echo chamber.
I don't. But I also, because I'm here to help people. I'm here to heal. I'm here to support leaders and liberate them from the limitations of their past so that they joyfully lead and make a positive, powerful, profound impact on this planet before it implodes on itself, which, okay, if that's what needs to happen to fix this, I'm good with that. Okay. So autonomy, back to that, because since you said, if you're here, find out why you're not taking this. When you said, okay, then my son could just take it with me, then I would justify doing it so that my younger son could take the course with me. But I don't know if it's just another thing to do, to check off a checklist to do it, even though, do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. So like, as an example, if your business got to running 100%, what would happen then?
Oh, that would be awesome. That would be amazing.
Do you know what the
100% would be
difference
there's a
is
team.
between where you're at and where you could be?
Do I know what the difference is?
Yeah. Do you know what the difference, like what actions and steps are in between like your business running 100% and where it's at now?
What I think I know and
Yeah.
what I fully understand are two different things.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been trying to operate based on what I think I know. And it's, I'm making baby steps, but not this exponential shift.
Closing the gap.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
So what if you could like close most of that gap and then just have to go sew up some of the like join up points, like post on a fence? Like you could have most of the fence there, but you'd have to go like join it together. Because my point would be, once you know like what done right looks like for your business to be optimized, then you could say, well, the first place I want to work is right here because I'd have the biggest result. And then the second place we could do this. And then this would be a nice to have, but it's a someday maybe, unless this or this or this happen, right? And then if doing all that improves your home situation and everybody's happier, then I'd say let's go after that because it enables this other thing that's more valuable, right? On the other hand, if it's you running your business, going through the course with your youngest learning how businesses run and learning where they could be contributing as young adults into that system, because there are many. So when you asked about high school replacement, I was like, I don't want to be on the hook for saying yes, but if it's a homeschool thing, totally learn how to run your business. Like, they should be learning skills that are valuable to the market so that when they want to go do whatever, they know how to go do that. Whether it's leave home and go to college, they'll actually go to college for a thing, apply it, use it, know how to market it, bill their clients. Like they could make something out of it. But like doctors and lawyers aren't told how to run a business. They go to school for all those years and then they get, effed at the drive-through, to use a 90s reference, because they're not told how to find clients, book clients, bill clients, keep them satisfied, and repeat. And that's why those professions have like a higher suicide rate, because they're in debt a lot more than the average person. So it's like they have that expression, mo money, mo problems. Just because you earn more money, if you don't know what you're trying to achieve overall with that tool and the acquisition of it then takes like an unforeseen priority in your life, as opposed to like, what do we need to do to improve this situation here in the household and embolden everyone's future? And giving your youngest, and I would say like even the one that just graduated, those type of things that you could readily learn and transfer to your own business and to their education would be multitudinous. And it's not just another course to like check off, like you've taken it and you've got it. There are people here who've been through it 11 times. They still don't have it. There's a lot to learn. You don't have to learn you don't have to learn 100% of any of this stuff. As much as you can glean each time through, is going to be another layer, and you're going to have different challenges and be at different points during each time you come through the seasons. So for someone like Phoenix, how many seasons have you been through? Half, like five? of them?
Five, six.
five.
I think I've fully completed 3. and
So
I
what'd
think
you
I was-
work on
I
the
was
first
absent for
season?
2. Say again?
Do you remember? Do you remember like what you worked on the first season and what you developed second
My first
season?
season it was developing a autonomy radio, developing a radio station, which is still in production, but I'm no longer part of the project, but it's still going on. It's still active. So that was the first thing that I wanted to do. I wanted to create a 24/7 radio station for all of the liberty-oriented and anarchist artists
And you
that were
spent
putting out music that didn't get airplay.
and you spent like not a lot of time practicing sales that season because you had a different focus.
Yeah.
But after you had done that, it was probably like the next 2 seasons where you started showing up at sales workouts. Then I was like, you're really good. You should just lead those workouts and I can take, and do other stuff and get, PowerPoints and stuff like that done. So, going back to your questions about, education that replaces high school, because if you're already homeschooling, you just need to create a well-adjusted, balanced, polite adult that has assertive nature and can go after their goals without plundering somebody else's production. Doesn't take 15,000 hours. If they have computer aptitude, gamer aptitude, any of those types of things, there's plenty of like IT and editing and all sorts of skills like that. If they're like cerebral and they like to write and contemplate things, like there's copywriting skills, they can make more than a lot of adults out the door, and they're not going to be in debt, and they're going to have a closer relationship with you, and you're going to know how to run your business better. And I also probably feel at this point you have too many hats as an entrepreneur. And as you get in and get acquainted with other people who might be able to do some of the other tasks that can be delegated or systematized, that's going to be a breath of fresh air for you. So even though it seems like you're overwhelmed right now, in this atmosphere, it actually makes it less overwhelming. And, so people who are like, I don't have time and I'm under too much pressure, I'm like, this is exactly who I designed the course for. But the problem is getting them to say, I'm going to take a step and just test it out and, see what happens. They prefer the knowns of their uncomfortable situation to the unknowns of the situation that could make them more comfortable. Does that make sense?
I'm still processing it.
That's cool.
I got what you called. Yeah, both my boys are amazing, and in terms of the educational high school, it's ridiculous. But there is that construct that is required for certain things. I'm a single mom. Their father has a total different reality than I do. So right now, my youngest is rebuilding a Sea-Doo from scratch. Bought it for 300. He'll probably sell it for 3,000. This is like the third or fourth thing he's done. He did a go-kart, bought it for 100, sold it for 1,000. Like rebuilt everything
Nice.
from ground up. Just bought himself. I mean, yeah, it's crazy. It's awesome. That was my intention for raising these young individuals, these amazing beings.
They can see the
And-
opportunity for value if they put their knowledge, understanding, and experience into that work, right?
Yeah.
Because what we teach here in the course is like any of those things that they want to renovate. Someone's throwing away, like my buddy outside here at the barbecue, he's famous for picking up stuff on the side of the road. People are
Mhm.
always throwing away stuff. It's easy fix. And then he
Yeah.
could, sell it, and he makes a lot of money off Craigslist, and it's just all cash, right?
Yeah.
So that aptitude that he has always been something that's like differentiates himself from other people, because it's a form and function inspection through using the trivium and what are the different parts? What do they call these different parts? I don't know what this part's called. Let's learn the name for it, and becoming more familiar with whatever's in front of you. And so whether it's a go-kart, a Sea-Doo, or flipping houses, it's all the same thing. There's broken parts, there's parts you can fix, there's parts you have to order, and then you have to know what the market values are.
So everything you're saying right now
Mhm.
about describing all of that, that's part of autonomy, right?
Yeah.
You're just saying this now, but that's what's in the course, where they actually learn to be able to the logic, to be able to differentiate and create. That's what I want them to get from someone else rather than me.
Right. And it's easier for kids to learn from people other than their parents. Right. So
Well, ideally,
Never a
they learn
prophet
to
in your own
live,
home.
because I'm trying to do that. But at the same time, I want someone that can be their peer or
Yeah.
their mentor. That's because they're going to have to go out in the world, like, right? They can't always be with them as mommy, and right.
Yeah.
So I want them to have community. I want them to have connection with intelligent people. Okay. I think I've got all my questions answered, and
You know,
I'm really
Stefano,
excited.
somebody who I think may have a very similar perspective to you is one of our other graduates, Jill Jensen. Jill just raised her hand. Jill, you want to chime in here and give a little bit of perspective from your side of the woods?
Hey, okay. Got to figure out Zoom here. Lower my hand. It's been a long time, Phoenix. Hey.
Pleasure to see you.
I just had to raise my hand because everything you're saying, I was like, yes, yes, yes. I identify with all of this. And I'm a homeschooling mom. Actually, my youngest is going into his senior year right now. So I'm on the, you know, almost done. But
You're about to shed a tear there because you're going to be empty nesting.
right, I'm so sad. What I was thinking as you were asking your questions is like, is autonomy gonna solve all your problems? Is Richard gonna solve everything and answer everything? And the answer is no. But the framework, I've been going through the course kind of asynchronous, off season. I've been listening to the lectures, and it's been a long time since I listened to them, and I'm like, oh, it just hits me in a different way. It applies to what I'm going through now. And what I think is what we're experiencing right here, this Q&A with Richard, like that never goes away. So this is where, to me, the value was. I've taken a lot of courses that cost way more money than Autonomy did, and your access to the guru, to the main person, is very limited. Like, okay, we have our half hour right now. Like, if you get your question within that 30 minutes, good for you. If not, like, okay, time's up. See you next week. Or this is only for 12 weeks. After that, goodbye. So
Because they move on to new clients.
yeah. So this right now, this whole Q&A session that we're having with Richard is like, this is how he pours himself out every Sunday during the Q&A for students. And actually now you've added in Friday night Q&A. And then you've started doing dojo workouts that are kind of unadvertised. Like the amount of access during the season that we have to your guidance, no matter what phase we're at in our career, in our entrepreneurship, in our parenting, whatever. So, so yeah, I would say, like, are you going to learn, like, okay, now I know how to, I'm not technical, so yes, now I know how to edit this specific video. Like, maybe not, unless you're in the, I think you're offering a
Pro media course.
Pro media, thank you. So maybe if you go into pro media, but like just that ongoing support. Like, I remember in season 7, all these people flooding into the Q&As from previous seasons saying, hey, Richard, and you were so excited to catch up with them. You knew them. And I would have to say, if anybody's afraid to unmute right now, you might challenge people a little bit more who are extroverted. But if people are introverted, if they're stumbling over their words, if they're afraid to unmute, like, you are so gentle with people who are brave enough to come on camera and ask you a question. That always impressed me from day one, that you're just so gracious, you're so gentle, you're so encouraging. Those people almost get more guidance from you than people who are over here. So yeah, I
know you guys can do more with less words.
So that's what I appreciate, is this ongoing interaction with Richard, this ongoing like partnership, and then just every time you listen to the lectures, there's always something that's going to apply. Like, I've homeschooled my boys pretty much from the beginning, but they still are victim to a lot of the indoctrination that just happens naturally. And so it's like, oh yes, I still need to think about this. I want them to hear this. I want them to know this, etc. So anyhow, I don't want to hug up all the time. Anybody who's new to autonomy, ask your questions.
Thank you.
I know
Jill.
Jeff had jumped in and kind of unmuted. I had to kind of jump in there and remute him. But Jeff Cornellis, did you have a question for us?
Yeah. I got a question. It's about the scavenger hunt and the changes that Richard said were going to be made to it, and
Oh, the
also
obstacle course.
oh, obstacle course.
Yeah, yeah.
Sorry, yeah.
But it's like a scavenger hunt. You're finding yourself through the process.
Okay.
The changes to it, basically, I had created the obstacle course as a one-to-many message set up like a course that really what it does is it proves to the individual that's going through that they can follow through and get the result at the end of it. And if you could do that, then I think you have enough attention span to get the value that's in autonomy. If it takes you 6 weeks to go through the obstacle course or what's now going to be the autonomy primer, then it's like you might not be ready for autonomy because there's going to be a lot going on and you don't have to catch everything, but you do have to show up for yourself for, let's say 10 of the 12 weeks. There's always things that happen, but if you got 10 out of 12 weeks, I'd consider that success as a student going through first time, especially people who haven't developed their self-discipline and scheduling and reminders and put the link in the right place, all those good things, right? So from that aspect, the major differences is it's going to be more condensed, efficient, updated, and in an easier ramp for people to see the opportunity, see how it could apply to them, have transparency, remove their doubts, talk to a graduate, and then potential of having an offer for enrollment. So it's a very similar process to what we had. We just haven't had that in place for like the last 6 months because it's been on my to-do list and I've had a full schedule. We plan my calendar is planned 6 months ahead at any given time. So right now my schedule's full till like the end of the year. Does that answer your question? And do you have another?
No, yeah, that answers my question. I don't know if I
So-
was unmuted or not, but
No, you're good. Did you have a follow-up to it?
Golden.
my only other question is when you're gonna show us your karaoke video.
There are bootlegs. People did film me, I'm sure. What
I'm
video
just
do I
joking.
have? Yeah, I'm gonna have one at some point. Maybe we'll do it at the September 20th Autonomy Season 12 concert. We're having a musical concert before we kick off the season. I was just booking some of the acts today. Maybe as an interim laugh-a-thon, we will post one of the videos of me doing karaoke.
Hey,
I
some of the
may
best
be
Stone
in
Temple
possession
Pilots
of said
karaoke I've ever
video.
seen.
Oh, thank you, Phoenix. Thanks. I do have a limited repertoire of what I can kind of do.
Until
But,
you expand your,
practice. We need
repertoire,
practice.
you gotta trigger that complexity. Come on, Rich,
Trigger.
you'll get it.
I got a catalog.
But I wanna throw it
celebrate
over
all the songs
to-
in the catalog.
I want to throw it over to Mark Raintree, but before we do, I had a question via message, whether or not if members are required to pay for each season, or do they pay once and have autonomy forever? As far as my understanding is, you have lifetime access to the course, but is there or isn't there a fee for the app? I think it's like $10 or something like that.
There's a
for the
community.
app
I think
itself.
as it starts right now, anyone who's a graduate has lifetime enrollment to the course materials. And as far as the community, we have included those things together, but now we're getting to the numbers that the community costs a lot of money. And so we're going to have a nominal $10 a month for not new students, because new students, I think, get free for the first year. But for anyone recurring, you want to, chip in $10, that would sure be a help to us facilitating all the resources and personnel that give you a safe, comfortable, nerfed up experience.
So with
Otherwise,
that
I'm
being
just
said,
paying you out of my pocket, Phoenix, when I have you do stuff.
that works. I mean, I don't mind.
Yeah. Well, I need to be a better businessman in some aspects. So I get a lot of feedback because I like to give like everything away for free. I just want everyone to have everything and have a good time. And, but then at the same time, you have to be a responsible adult. So I do need to check how much value I give for free versus what I keep behind a paywall. But for those who are looking for free stuff, I got plenty of free stuff, but it's the stuff that's behind the paywall where I spend 99% of my time working with those people that are over there and not just random people on the internet. Cause the people on the internet don't have they're not, here's what I can say. When people pay for something, they show up, especially when they pay a premium amount, they show up, they pay attention, they schedule it. They got it all going on. If I try to go help the people who are being like, they need it for free, I'm going to be broke like them and I can't help anybody. And I learned that the hard way the first 10 years of my productions, where I was like, just make it all free.
It's been one of the
And
biggest
we're trying to like save freedom.
aggravations.
Like, why should profits get in the way? But if you don't have a profit, you can't continue to show up for another day. So
It's
it
been my
has to be a
biggest
balance.
aggravation with the firm is we don't charge for our consultations. So I have no shows after no shows. Oh my God. Ugh.
Well, I got some strategies that could help you get your numbers up, but we'll talk about that off hours.
So let's throw it over to autonomy. I think it was season 8 or 9 students, season 5 for Mr. Mark Raintree. What do you got for us, Mark?
Good to see you gentlemen again and ladies. Just wanted to throw something out for Stefana as well. Following up on what Jill was saying, my family considers me an entrepreneur. I've been self-employed, my own business I built.
You're a serial entrepreneur, bro.
Kinda. Yeah, I've got multiple businesses going and more than 30 years now. I've got grandkids who don't live with us, so I'm very careful about what kind of questioning authority type of stuff that I introduce them to, because I don't want them living through hell and not having the support of me in the back. If I were homeschooling them, totally different. I'd be going quite a bit different. But I would encourage Stefana to consider it. The forever access to it is important. The people that I've met, I mean, Richard, you brought so much information to me. There's a number of things I knew. I've been doing this for a while, but there's so much more that you bring it to, and it's a whole nother level. And I have to, full disclosure, I'm the kind of guy that listens to things over and over again, because you never step in the same river twice. I'm frequently getting a new lesson that I wasn't really getting before. And I think the mother-son dynamic there would be very synergistic. I think that there would be a lot more growing and learning for both of the two in that situation, even for your other son as well, who might not be in the group. There's a lot going on there. Partner, spouses, they all pick it up. So I was attracted by the trivium, the ability to a proper way of thinking, of being able to reduce contradiction and come out with truth, come out with something that's real that I can test, I can prove, because that's what I do for a living in my other jobs and so forth. So I would encourage it. And the community, I mean, I've got somebody in Germany I check in with weekly that's an autonomy grad. I've got people that I check in daily with that are autonomy grads. And it's not an echo chamber. It's more of a, hey, I'm thinking about this, and people who question me on my stuff. Mark, are you thinking about, have you considered this? Or, oh, this is coming up for you again. You might want to be looking at this, well, you're a pack rat. What are you holding on to there, son? So there's a whole lot of calling me to my things from the group as well. So I not only did season 5 in kind of an accelerated fashion, I did season 6 again, and then periodically I go back through. There's a plethora of material. Badneric, going through the law stuff, there's so much material, so many things. The permaculture, I've actually chatted with the wonderful lady who brought us the permaculture information, and I've been practicing, join one of our permaculture groups. There's just so much. And
Melissa is a associate producer on the Ultimate History Lesson. Melissa Miles, who did that permaculture course.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, she's given me a shot in the arm, and I've actually got a raised bed garden going and a number of things happening. And I've been, I even brought it to the local flower horticulture group that we're members of, to get them to thinking about taking care of the earth. One of my great clients is a regenerative dairy farm that I've got a relationship set up with. I get all kinds of dairy products, and they get computer stuff working, and so it's a wonderful situation. But I would just highly recommend it, Stefana. Once I talked to Lisa, I realized, I was pretty sure I was going to do it when I heard you, Richard, speaking at, I think it was D3, when you were introducing the whole concept of the trivium. And I was like, I want to learn that. And then she made it was clear. It's like, yeah, why not right now? And then keep coming back to it. For me, I dip back in periodically. So I would encourage it. That's my 2 cents.
Great to see you, Mark.
Yeah, aside from just the autonomy course and the content you get throughout the actual 12 weeks, there's like 11 other courses that you get just for being part of the community, from the
But you don't get them until you
accountability.
graduate, right? I mean, that's the whole thing, is like, otherwise it'd be distracting and overwhelming, and you wouldn't finish any of them. But if you finish autonomy, it's easy to get through the 12-week ethics course, or Badneric's Know Your Rights course, or permaculture, or logic, or trivium, all those other things that go for graduates to keep them busy.
Yep. So the value is definitely there, just beyond the amazing value that you get from
Well, if they get the value and they know they can show up for themselves till they see a result, then it just comes down to cash flow. James or Phoenix, did you guys ever experience cash flow shortages in the past? Like, like we all have dealt with these things in order to get wherever we got in life, right? Do you guys have words of wisdom for people in those situations, of like, you know, how not to be stuck in that situation forever?
James, I'll let you jump in first.
I turned the interview on you guys. That's called turning the tables.
Yeah, well, to answer your question directly, yes, cash flow issues have been a problem for me throughout my entire life. And when I finally just got my stuff together and met you at Pork Fest is like is like, you know, there's like a sinew there that holds a lot of it together. For like Phoenix and I have that in common about going to Pork Fest and being like, this Richard Grove guy, I got to go meet him in person. But I did the same thing. It was a big step in me making up my mind and saying, yeah, the community, the education, it was all for me. The cash flow issues, I knew that I knew that by enrolling, I would thank myself later. And I have. And because I'm not a very, you know, monetarily wealthy man, what autonomy has done for me, what I've been able to do for myself because of, you know, buckling down and showing initiative and taking the education and autonomy very seriously is I've been able to improvise. I've been able to adapt and overcome a lot of issues that I've gone through in the past like year. I'm a season 10 graduate. And so there's not a lot of time between me actually taking the course for the first time and now. And so it's been an extraordinary change, a completely different frame of mind that I've been able to find myself being in, where before I might find myself being like, man, there's no hope. Man, I just live paycheck to paycheck. But now there's creativeness behind my, you know, money making abilities, you know, and, you know, so with that, you know, it's been an experience for sure. I joined autonomy because of the community aspect first and foremost. I get a little personal with everybody here, I'm not afraid to do so. I through the pandemic, there are a large portion of my family that want little to nothing to do with me because of my my desire for liberty and my unwillingness to give up said liberty for any reason. And so I knew that this would be a place where I could be free to express myself and be around healthy people who, you know, don't want to kind of like kneecap you and would want to back you up and see you bring the best out of yourself. The community has always got my back. Every time I've ever brought a problem to the people, there's always, before I can even blink, there's always 10 or 12 different solutions being proposed to me in the forum and even in like live chats and, you know, Q&A sessions and whatnot. And it's just an amazing environment to be around. It's unlike anything I've ever experienced in my life. And, you know, it came to me in a very crucial part of my life, and it keeps paying off in dividends for real. It's been, I mean, now I feel like I'm talking in circles, but it has been just that amazing. I can't say it enough.
Well, you still have your day job, right?
Sure. I still have my day job, and
But now you got a new source of income.
And I've been able to leverage my position there in order to, you know, get a raise and to, you know, get better equipment that I use every day. And, you know, this side of me was buried before I was able to see the possibilities within myself that taking the course was able to bring out of me. You know, Richard, you've been an excellent mentor to me. Thank you very much. You know, it's been real, man. And what am I saying like that? Like I'm leaving or something? But
It takes a special level of trust to let somebody like you message all of my colleagues and friends. I saw those emails coming through yesterday, and I was like, what's going on? And there's one from Corbett, and I'm emailing back and forth because we have a project that we're doing, a secret project this month, right? So I'm like, what's going on? And it's James saying thanks to James. And I'm like, what's going on? I'm not even in this thread. What's happening? And then I realized, oh, this is Cordner reaching out for all the VIP4 stuff. It's awesome. And I was so surprised because it's happened before, but I've never been copied on the messages. And I think it's good for two reasons. I get to see the messages and they know I'm being copied on the messages to take you seriously. And that's all wonderful. And I guess my point was prior to that was like, you have your day job, but now you have online skills that you can bring to pay extra bills whenever you want to, because you know how else to go out and showcase your value in a way that people are like, yes, we would like to hire you for that. Right.
Yeah. And that was largely in part, well, thanks to Leah and the Pro Media course and being able to, take that semi-remotely because I'm an early bird. So like a lot of the late night stuff for me is difficult to attend. So having the replays there and the available and the the University of Reason library and everything is crucial. It's like it's another aspect that like eliminates excuses and says, hey, even if you can't be there live, we got the replays. You can still be a part of this. There's no barrier there, and it's amazing. And now I get to kind of pay it forward and help you guys out. And it's been incredible. And it's only been like a couple weeks, but I'm wicked excited for whatever happens next.
And
So-
it's not something we usually advertise or put like on the marketing page and stuff, but I only hire autonomy graduates because I'm spoiled now. And once you work with people with the attitude of gratitude, culture of excellence, and they're like no excuses going on, you don't want to go to the internet and hire random people. So I don't know. In the past 4 years, I have spent at least $500,000 paying autonomy graduates for professional services and contract work or how, consulting work, whatever you want to call it, freelance work.
Yeah.
That's how we'll refer to it. And I'm looking forward to being in business and continuing to pay graduates as the company grows, because this is the ultimate training system for any company anyway. Why not build around it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, as far as my experience with, income and cash flow issues, I've never had it. I've been robbing banks since I was 6, so I've become really adept at it. It's not really an issue for me. So whenever I need money, I just go down to, Old Second and I'll be like, hey, give me about 300,000 and it's all good. No, but seriously though, if something is valuable enough, the money's not a real issue. The price for something, if the value's there, it's 10 times the value. And so the price that you're paying for it is well outweighed by the value that you're going to be getting for it. So in those type of situations where the budget is short, if there is something that is of vital importance, you're going to be able to make the money for it. If you have to have gas to get to work, you're going to find some quarters in the couch. If you have to eat and you haven't eaten in 2 days, you're going to borrow some money from somebody. You're going to bum on the corner. The things
Or
that
you're going to
have
offer your service to the market and they're, you're going to get taken care of. It's only the people that don't make an offer that really have the problem of like being stuck. Right.
Yeah,
Like
the question of like,
you can wash windows at an intersection, just like look around. There are people willing to scrap and there are people who are entitled, and you're going to work with the people who are scrappers that like have
Yeah, the
that
question of-
fortitude and they're trying.
the question of cash flow is never really a real objection or a real issue, because especially when it comes to autonomy, because we've got a lot of different options as far as financing. Like we can work with people to make sure that you guys get the skills and that the money issue doesn't hold you back. So with that, I'll leave it there. I'll try and be brief because I do want to get over to Stephen Rorick, and we want to stay within our integrity. And we're probably have about maybe 7 to 15 minutes left, so that we can stay in integrity. And so, Stephen, I believe you have got a question for the class.
Howdy, Stephen, you got to unmute. There you go.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah. It's like
Richard,
a Verizon commercial.
Richard, it's a real pleasure, sir.
Likewise.
I can't hardly explain how grateful I am to be coming into your presence. I don't really have a question at this point, but I'd just like to formally introduce myself. So I'm already season 12, enrolled in season 12. I'm 15% through season 11.
Ooh.
I just want to make sure that I can get all I can get. And listening to you, the way that you are so precise and the way that you act, the way that you hold yourself, I mean, I've been impressed. So I got to know you through Grand Theft World, and I've probably been watching that about 6 or 8 months. And I just was like, man, this guy is like, because I listened to Mr. Jones and all of the rest of the mirage of all the guys that are the freedom fighters in this world. But I mean, my hat is off to you so sincerely that you're so astute in what you do. And I just thought to myself, I got to be on this guy's team one way or another, however it's going to be, even if I got to start at the lowest level or do whatever it is. I know by the end of the time that we're going to be, I mean, I'm all yours, man. I mean, I'm everything that you do and what you have done and what you will do is completely in line with my thought process. So my hat's off to you, man. I mean, you're awesome every step of the way. And I appreciate Phoenix and James as well, and everybody else. Holly Barclay is the one that I talked to that got me enrolled. So that's what I got, man.
That's wonderful. All right, so let's rewind. How did you find Grand Theft World, Stephen?
So I watched the Band video of Alex Jones. Yeah, man, I catch it on Band video.
That makes it all worth it because Band video is not easy to upload to. But all right, so the next part of it is, what is it about my work that really struck you and stuck with you?
It's the precision, and then I guess it's the brain too. I'm figuring that out too. And I was like, man, how the heck did he get all this stuff? Yeah, right there. Like
one thought at a time, bro. One thought at a time.
Whoa, where did that come from, man?
And it went on for like years, and it was blowing my mind every day. And I needed a way to like understand it, recall it, and share it with people. And me just telling them doesn't do it. But I'm like, here's the brain link. Click in and read every page associated with this thought. You're going to understand it better than people going to college right now. And you can self-teach in this way. If you know there's a thought, where did it come from? Where does it go? Like what was its influences? What are its effects? And who participated in that? You're going to know more than professionals on the topic that have worked in the industry. So it's a simple way of educating yourself. And for me, it was the necessity of having a visual map because I'm very visual minded. And I knew the importance of it because there was an artist called Mark Lombardi who did this type of conceptual art using real records from corporate corruption and government corruption. And I thought there should be an electronic, interactive, shareable version of that type of thing. And since he had passed away suspiciously, I was like, I'm going to carry that work forward. And this model's 16 years old about. So I started it in 2008, and it's got 10,000 thoughts, which the center node's a thought. And then it has about 50,000 links. So for each thought, there's at least 5 references. And, you can go anywhere that I've studied in history, and there's a trail that you could become similarly focused and informed and articulate and precise. And thank you for noticing the precision aspect. And like all I've ever tried to do with my work is make it reflective of a reality in a non-contradictory way that is precise and accurate and uses the proper nomenclature so people could actually understand, because when you transfer understanding, that's when people have new choice to take action.
Yeah, quite fascinating, man. I mean, there's a lot of podcasters out there or people out there that have a lot of information, but I mean, your title of forensic historian, man, I mean, that's it's right on.
Well, I mean, that's the first title because when I worked for a corporation, they tell you what the title is. You are a target account manager, you're a global account manager, stuff like that, right? So when it came time to like describe what I do, I'm a conceptual artist and forensic historian, and it's the forensic history I discovered that I put into my art so that people could actually learn from it in a new, interesting, different, interactive, dynamic way.
You're awesome, man. Thank you so much.
Likewise, I appreciate the kind words, and I look forward to you showing up for yourself. You've already done more than is way expected. You're here early. You're going through last season. When we hit the live season, you're going to pick up a whole nother layer that you didn't even hear the first time. So I admire your diligence, and you're wanting to get all your value out of this investment in yourself, and you're on a perfect trajectory for that.
Thanks again.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for jumping in there, Stephen. Thank you for the answer, Rich. Before we jump to our last 2 questions, or at least the 2 questions we have available, I want to remind everybody of what's coming up soon. The VIP Summit 4 coming up Saturday, September 7th at 12 p.m. Eastern. It is free to attend, guys. There's
I got a
link.
graphic for it. Look. If I talk over here, it'll come up on you later.
It's like we're pros.
Learn how to say no to the NWO. That's the New World Order. Their agendas are exposed. VIP Summit 4. Is it for very important? No, they're important, but they're independent producers, very independent producers. There's going to be more than what you see here, but this is the starting roster. We're still working on the confirmations right now. The idea is each of my friends and colleagues, they work every day as hard as they can to do this thing, and it's all around a common interest. So going back to echo chambers, I'm not interested in echo chambers where everyone thinks and says the same thing and reacts alike to stimulus, because that's just public schooling. That's mainstream media. I want away from that. What do I want? I want common interests. Common interest looks like this. A group of people are interested in antique cars, classic cars. They all think their car is the best. They don't agree on anything other than they all like cars. Here, we like freedom. Not everyone achieves freedom in the same way and does the same things. We don't agree on all these things. We might say there's a different tactic or there's a different strategy, but we all like freedom and liberty. That's not an echo chamber. It's an interest group. It's a focus group, focus of education. And it's meant to be exactly opposite of what echo chambers produce, which is nonsense.
Exactly. So guys,
VIP
don't forget
4,
to touch base on those links that are in the chat. I know Leah and James are going to be dropping some amazing links for great giveaways and goodies. We've got links for the Mindset 1 Anti-Fragile lecture and goal setting course. That one was awesome. I really love that one. And I haven't been to the 2 and 3, but there's going to be links for the Mindset Level Up 2, Mindset 2 lecture, which is leveling up. And then of course, Mindset 3. Those links
are all just like
little freebies.
Strong prerequisites that would help you master your autonomy journey the first time through. But most students who've gone through never had those benefits that you guys are offered in those mindset series. So
guys, don't leave yet. Don't jump away from the Zoom. We still got some more questions. So let's get to these last couple of questions we've got. Mike, go ahead and jump in there. Go ahead and unmute and let's see what you'd like to say.
Let me see here.
How you doing, Mike?
Golden.
Doing all right. How y'all doing?
Wonderfully well. Thanks for asking.
Awesome. Yeah, so I got into Mark Passy about 2 or so years ago, and I feel like I did see the link on his website that 2 years ago, but yeah, just recently just finally decided to actually click on it and have been absorbing all the free content. And to also refer, or not refer, but let you guys know about a technical thing on the 19 skills PDF. The link for the obstacle course wasn't working, so I just went through the the search engine and just found it the other way.
Oh, were you able to go through it?
Oh, well, the link didn't work. So
Okay.
I went to the search engine, just typed in obstacle course, through the university, just found it that way. So I found it. But
All right, cool. Because the reason it was hard to find and that link didn't work is because I think we just took it offline because like the pricing wasn't updated. It was like 2 seasons old or something like that. So yeah, go ahead. But very industrious of you not to let that stop you. I like that.
yeah, I was just like, well, this sounds like, an amazing resource, so I gotta find it. Boom. But no, my question was essentially, and you guys kind of touched upon it to an extent. I was gonna say, as an introvert, what has been your professional experience with introverts, or your opinions on how they can kind of infiltrate, for lack of a better term, the marketplace in a positive way?
Yeah, I'd say first off, 75% of the students that have gone through autonomy have been introverts. Introverts of afraid to speak in groups at work, to speak their mind to their spouse, to not do public speaking. That would freak them out. To do karaoke, all those types of things. Like introversion just wants to, heavy thinkers, planners, but very, very hesitant to make themselves vulnerable in those situations. And a lot of times for good reason, because of public schooling. So a lot of us had that kind of tick built into us of, we're not going to speak our mind. We don't know how to handle it, in comparison to other people who might have a more aggressive personality. Right. And so teaching intellectual self-defense and practicing these exercises, first off, there's plenty of people here there might even be people here in this room who went through the first season of autonomy and never unmuted. They were so introverted, right? And they just wallflowered it. And we recognize them and we talk to them, but we also let them know the people who are actually getting help are the ones unmuting and getting their questions answered. And whenever they feel comfortable, they can participate because nothing's mandatory in the course. So every Q&A on Sunday, we'll do a breakout room where you're in the room with like 5 or 6 of classmates. You can be in there and not talk. You can be introverted, be in the room, not talk, or you can stay out of that room and be in the limbo room where we bend over backwards to help everyone else get back into their rooms or whatever. So it's like when they're ready, the resources are there and they see plenty of other people learning to fly so they can break out of their cocoon too. But it's never like, let's break open the cocoon and pull them out, because who wants that, right? So
Right.
we just try to offer, because it's like nerfed up and it's fear-free and nobody's ever being ridiculed and failure is invited. Like I teach students, like, go out and collect your 10 failures this week because you're going to find your two successes. But if you're not willing to go collect those failures, you're not going to succeed. So like a lot of the introversion and how we think about failure, those things, like, they're not benefits to us. They don't add value to us getting to our goals. So I think it's a common built-in thing from schooling. I had it all the way through college. I had it until I learned how to be an entrepreneur and did that franchise. And that's where I learned I could talk to anybody, anything. You know, I've been kicked off someone's porch. I don't remember. I'm sure I was, though. Someone said, get out of here. But most people were cool because you're asking about like their house and it's their biggest investment and they know it needs to be painted too, you know? So when you find out our fears are not validated, and then you ask the question, how many of our fears are holding us back, not because we shouldn't go there, but because society doesn't want you going there because it would be a threat to their monopoly of,
Right.
you know, authority on any given thing. Did that answer your question about introversion?
Oh, totally. And
Okay.
also, I was gonna, schedule the call.
Yeah.
Could you give me some, I don't know, either insight or some pointers? Because I was thinking like, hey, should I, listen, watch, and read some of your content to get more of a basis so I'm more composed
Can
for
I demystify it for you, Mike?
totally.
Here's how it works. All right. The process we use for enrollment is the same process we teach people in the course. So everyone in the course learns the interview skill set, and then they learn the problem solving conversation skill set, which, you know, you could take to the market and call it sales, but it's what we do every day with each other to solve problems and make progress. Right.
Yeah.
So from the interview skill set, which Phoenix was just demonstrating tonight, like he didn't necessarily know how to conduct interviews prior to autonomy, but it's one of the first things we teach. From that process going through, people gain substantial listening skills because you're listening with the intent to understand. So it's on another level of communication that most people find like they're thinking of what they're going to say because they're nervous or introverted. But when you
Yeah.
actually get into active listening and the things you need to do for active listening, that part is game changing. And then because everyone who goes through and graduates, like the graduation interview is basically just like your blueprint strategy call, only now you've accomplished things. So what they're doing in a blueprint strategy call is they're showing up for someone who's interested. They're going to have a conversation that, you know, starts out with, you know, how old are you and where do you live? What do you do for a living? How long have you done that? Right. Then they're going to ask you questions about, how did you hear about autonomy? What did you see about it that you thought would be useful to you? And so we're trying to validate your need and that we can help you while also figuring out what you might be doing to hold yourself back. Negative self-talk, scarcity mentality, learned helplessness, these other analytical things that individuals might not see, but
Yeah.
having seen and talked to so many people, we're like, oh, right away, this person, the way they said this, it's some negative self-talk. They're telling themselves they can't, or these little things. So we could say, here's a better plan. Go off and do these things. You don't need autonomy. In some cases, that's the right thing to do. Like there was one guy and he had a stack of checks, but he couldn't cash them because he wouldn't get, like, the bank needed an ID and he didn't like the DMV. And I just told him at some point those checks are going to expire because they were like from his employer. If you don't go do this thing, all that money is going to evaporate. You don't need autonomy right now. What you need to do is go to the DMV and do the thing and cash those checks. And like, if autonomy is
Yeah.
right for you in the future, come back. Right. For other people, you could tell they're in pain. They're looking for taking action to relieve their own pain, and they're serious about themselves. They have self-respect. They're going to show up for themselves. And so without any red flags that this person's going to like quit on themselves and, you know, possibly not get their value, we try to prevent that from ever becoming a relationship in the first place. So the people that are making it through the blueprint strategy call and getting an invitation for enrollment, they're showing up, they're getting to talk to a graduate, dispelling their doubts, getting transparency, getting a plan that they can either accomplish on their own or they can do through autonomy. And so the same way that students have been taught are the same way that students come back in. So it's like a convection current of causality. And if I'm not doing a good job transferring the skills each season to the graduates who are learning those skills, they're not going to be able to play the part that other graduates had played for them to like lower the barrier to entry, because this is a big idea. There's a lot to know just to know if it's like something you can use or would put to work, right? And then there's like, yes, I want this, it would work for me, but how does it all work? How is it unfolded? When are the lectures? Do I have to show up? Is there a penalty if I don't show up? All those little things. That's where I can take all those questions that people would have and I can put them into what we call the primer course, or what was the obstacle course. That way, before you even take the trouble to get on the phone with one of our graduates, you've had most of your questions answered. And you do know that this is something that would really value you if you could navigate these last couple turns, right? And that's, so the way we do sales and enrollment for the university is the same way we teach it for people to do in the real world. And that's the same thing Phoenix does for that law firm. And he's fortunate to have a place that lets him do honest sales that are ethical with integrity. And it does make sense that they're lawyers, but not all lawyers are honest, you know. But I have had other students come back to work for us in various components, and they've gone out and tried to work sales from like selling solar panels, selling cars, selling things. There's a lot of things we've all bought. They all had salespeople, right? We've all bought used cars. We bought them from used car salespeople, right? With different outcomes maybe from those situations. But they noticed like it's prodigal sons coming back. They have a high-minded idealistic way of this can be done this way and do it honestly. And then they have trouble finding a place in the market that'll actually pay them to do the right thing and not cheat their customers, right? So that's part of like the Italian phrase is the rovina vita. It's the ruined life, right? Like once you know there is a right way to do sales, now you have to find a place that will actually pay you to do the right way of sales and not try to corrupt you the whole time and offer you a bunch of money to do the wrong thing, because that's a real thing in the market. But you don't know that until you learn the right way to do it. Otherwise, people just think that's how it's supposed to be done, the wrong way, all the time. What do you have to say, Phoenix? Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Was I accurate? Was I exaggerating, hyperbolizing to a non-realistic degree?
As usual. I mean, that's kind of what you do. No,
I was expecting the inspirational violin music in the background, right?
Yeah. If I had a
well,
button
guys,
for
we've got a few more minutes.
Did that
I
answer
want
your
to stay
question,
on
Mike?
integrity with us.
I'm not afraid to interrupt Phoenix. Did that answer your question, Mike? I want to make sure you had that reason.
Yes, totally. And what was the entrepreneur's name? Who you said the hyphen story? I wanna search that up.
Jack Spirko, last name Spirko. It was published 3 months ago, and it's him at a podium with there's like a picture. What's in the picture in the background? Like the world or something like that's in the background. It's I could find it for you and drop it in the chat.
Yeah, and you said it was like 12 minutes and everything you need to know in 12 minutes, something like that.
I'm going to find you the title. I'm going to drop the link in the chat. And if I go silent too long, Phoenix will cover me.
Kind of what I do. So guys, get your hands raised now. We're going into the home stretch. Before we do head over to Nathan, who has the next hand up, I do want to tell you guys about the specifics behind the actual enrollment process. You're going to join the Autonomy Quest like you guys all have done, helps you make an informed decision and decide if, is this stuff really right for you? Then you're going to set up the actual Blueprint for Success strategy call. You're going to have a call with one of the graduates, and they're going to go through exactly what it is that the problems are that you're dealing with in life, what your goals are, and then we're going to build out a specific blueprint to help you guys accomplish those goals while using the autonomy ecosystem and how to actually get there from the skills that you're going to develop through this process. After that, if this is something that's right for you and autonomy, you'll receive an offer to join. If that works for you and everything, all the numbers work, you're going to sign up, you'll join autonomy, get connected with the community, and get ready for season 12. Remember, guys, lectures start September 20th. So don't hesitate unless it's not right. But, it will be a wonderful time. Rich, you got that
Let's
link
go to
for Mike?
Nathan. He's got a question, and then we can wrap it.
Right, there we go. Nathan Reynolds, go ahead and step it up and let's see what you got.
Righty. Thanks so much for giving me the opportunity here. I've been participating from afar more in the Invisible College for probably 12 years of just trying to glean everything I can from your content that you had.
Nice.
But about 8 years ago, I ended up pursuing a goal for all intensity of my life. And I published a book, more of an autobiography, and then produced an audiobook for that and began to travel and speak around that. My family moved full-time into an RV and we traveled all over the country for about 160,000 miles over the last 5 years. But we just started learning in different farms and trades and homesteads and permaculture. And then, but during the course of that, in the last about 18 months, there's been a substantial increase of interest in my content, my work. And so I become a lot more sought after as an interview guest, and I am looking towards autonomy as an opportunity to really cultivate my communication skills, my ability to also interview other people, and to kind of maintain integrity of thought from just up here in the brain to actions. And because I've got a big drawing board of things that I need to be successful in and trying to manage that. So I did schedule I finally have some more stability in more of a permanent living situation, which is wonderful. But and I was able to schedule a call with Andy McKay and Charles Carroll, and they both did a phenomenal job at being able to just give me insights from kind of the behind the scenes, the
two different perspectives too.
Totally different perspectives. And it was really helpful to answer my questions in a great way. And I did decide to enroll in the course, and that was wonderful process as well. So my ultimate question for you is, what are the most notable pitfalls that you find students fall into that keeps them from getting the most out of the autonomy course?
Negative self-talk. Or allowing negative self-talk to come in through their friends, family, who are like, what are you doing? Trying to improve yourself, spending $5,000 to do the thing. It's just people who are like, they're not ready for change. They're challenged by you trying to change yourself. You let that in your door and corrupt your system. You get unfocused. You stop showing up for yourself. Then you manifest your worst fear, which is, I wasted my money. I didn't show up. And now I didn't get the results that they promised. And if someone asks you, how's autonomy? Oh, I didn't get the results they promised. You didn't say you didn't show up or that you quit on yourself. You act like the dojo broke or we stopped teaching or whatever the thing is, right? It's just it's a whole quagmire, and I don't need their enrollment. That's the whole thing. It's like, if you know how to do business right, then you become like more discerning and say, like, I have a line, and it's like, I don't want to exchange money for drama. Won't do it. Too many other good things to do in life. So how do we filter that out and find people that, if there's an issue, be polite and we'll fix it, right? But if somebody acts entitled and they're all aggressive, like, we try to get that out. Like Charlie or Andy would figure that out, right, during the call. So those are both high aptitude graduates, but very different decades, right? So it's good that you talk to two of them. And from a position of the things you're looking to get from this course, you already have all these things going on. I recognize that. Like, first off, good audio setup. You have a good radio voice. You've been traveling around collecting all this data and experience. You want to know how to do interviews better, how to produce those, get those out, work social media a little bit better. But I would think also encapsulating what you've learned into like a course offering, or helping the people that you meet as you go around get their offer to the market. Like, have you stopped by Jim Gale's place in Florida yet? Do you know who he is?
No, sir.
Okay. Foodforestabundance.com.
Oh yeah. I'm familiar with that. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So like, there's a place where if Jim had a course teaching people, I'm sure maybe he does. I haven't talked to him in a couple months, but like, that was one of the next things. I'm like, dude, you need to show people how you're doing Galt's Landing so they could do likewise on their properties. And I know he does sell like the plans and they'll do it for you and that type of thing. But just for people that are DIY, open source some stuff, right? And I'm sure a lot of the people that you interact with over 160,000 miles of travel, some of them want to open source it, and some of them are like, no, we need to pay for the farm. Can you show us how to monetize it? And knowing both ways becomes like Johnny Appleseed of that whole situation, or you're like the bees, you're the bee coming through to pollinate, because otherwise they don't talk and know each other or like cooperate on solving problems.
The other big avenue that's opened up for me is more from like SGT report interviews and kind
Sure,
of
Sean. Yeah.
yeah, there's quite a quagmire, but regardless, there's kind of the constitutional republican and conversation side of the equation that's being sought after and kind of pulled out a whole lot more. I did a lot of covert operation stuff with the military, and that seems to be getting cultivated and fostered in a lot more intrigue and interest and requests for interview from an interview shows. And so I'm trying to facilitate that,
Sure.
but
Have
I
you
have
gone like
a
on Sean
diversity of it.
Ryan?
Not yet, no, but I've been on the
Yeah.
Confessionals podcast, and Greg Reese just reached out to me, and
Oh, right
some
on.
of these other Kurtz Metzger and a lot of these other guys. So I know there's going to be a continuity of increase on that regard. So I'm trying
Sure.
to facilitate building this well better before anything else,
Can I text Kurt
goes
and ask him what he thinks of you?
Sure.
No, I'm just
We've
kidding.
had some exchanges. Yeah. Yeah,
He'd be
absolutely.
like, that guy's got crazy stories, man. Yeah.
I bet, dude. They are.
All right. So, other questions, or you made it here, you made it through tonight. Like, if you could do this, you could get all the value you need to out of the course curriculum and stuff like that. You seem like you're not introverted and are going to be muting up and not asking your questions, right? So what is something that's on your radar that could like trip you up, right? I said negative self-talk might trip you up. What is the thing on your radar that you do that might come up and prevent you from achieving this goal?
Failure time management would probably be the predominant one. Lack of self-discipline with time management. I have 4 children, twins, and we live in a very complicated living situation. And my failure to follow disciplined time management between 9 p.m. and 4 a.m. tends to be my time to work the third shift. And so I need to be dedicated use of all the waking other hours to try to ascertain as much content as I can.
So the gist would be life's going to happen, Murphy's Law, all these
Mhm.
good things. As long as you continue to chip away, the course is like timeless. So whether you catch a live lecture or you catch a replay or you watch last season or the first season or whatever, you can keep chipping away and learning how to like conquer each obstacle or overcome each challenge that shows up in front of you. You don't have to know them all at once, right?
Mhm.
But if you're trying to like, I'm trying to get through to this VIP and invite them to an interview and you can't get past a gatekeeper, then the challenge is, how do we get past gatekeepers?
Mhm.
What do I need to say to this person to allow them to see the value in my offer so that the other person will schedule and show up for the interview, right? That's just a basic of interactions, but we're not taught that in school. And so autonomy students all learned, like, we give them a Calendly account that's free. And now you have a link and people can hop on your calendar, which is very professional. You invite someone for an interview. Hey, here's my Calendly link. Pick any time and I'll show up and we can do the interview. It's like no excuses. Like, oh, okay. Right. So it's not 4 or 5 emails back and forth and time zones. It's like, it's already wrinkled. It's like already ironed out. So it's just like another step forward that you can get from knowing where you're going to go before you walk it.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you,
Appreciate
Nathan. I'm looking forward to this season.
Likewise.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. Well, I don't see any other hands going once, going twice. Anybody out there with something on your mind? Who's got the little brain bug that's in there that you just need to get it out? Step forward now, or forever hold your peace till.
No, they just hold it till the AMA. Like this is no pressure,
till the next AMA.
right? Like we dispel the confusion, we remove the doubt, we provide transparency, and the season starts in 6 weeks. People figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I have one last question of Nathan. Nathan, did you enroll into autonomy?
Yes, Ms. Devereaux, I did.
You did. Oh, good. I've been wanting to connect with you. I've heard 2 of the SGT reports with Sean, our interviews with Sean, and you and I have something in common. We were born into Zionist Masonic families. Only I was born in Central America and you were born in the States. We have a lot of similarities. And anyway, I'm hoping to connect with you at some point.
Look at that, Nathan. You met a fan already.
Well, thank you so much, Ms. Devereaux. I look forward to being able to talk to you more too. I was on the call last week and listening to more of your story and started studying more of your background, and appreciate you being so bold and brave to come forward and share your story. It's a tremendous inspiration to others that have gone where you've been.
Thank you. And I was delighted to hear your perspective because it's a male component. And of course, yours was, more intense than mine, but at any rate, it was a very similar family. It was just like down to a T, the satanic and, all of the details. So I was quite moved when I heard those two interviews.
Courage inspires courage.
Indeed. Be brave counselors. Thank you. But that's why I'm out here and trying to make a difference, is because there's a lot of others that are sitting in the background right now that need to not live out of that fear and instead find that.
You
that
are fear
making
a
of man
difference
die.
because Renee heard your message already. Right? She's not your target audience, but she's someone who says, I'm glad that you're out there on the field doing what you do, because like you guys are covering similar but different zones.
Exactly. And here I'm from Central America. He's from the United States. And yet that, let's say that, what?
Systematic abuse is
System
world spread.
abuse.
Yes.
But no, it's a family. It's
Yeah.
that dynamic, the Masons, the Zionists, that they're worldwide. And anyway, here we are, different generations and so forth, and it's irrelevant because we've gone through it. So at any rate, thank you, Nathan, and thank you, Richard, and everyone else. Yeah, no, it's a delight. Congratulations for joining Autonomy. You'll get
Wasn't that long ago. You were in their position.
That's right. And can I just say one last thing, because you've asked me several times, so what was the final decision? What made me decide to join Autonomy? And I've said many things about my project, my work, this and that. But you know what it really was, Richard? It's the intensity of being able to speak the unspeakable. You see, and I have been so isolated for so many years. And here I found people, and we can have these rich conversations. And it's, wow, how fabulous is that? Because here, especially in Nevada, it just seems that most people, they don't want to know. They just don't want to know. Consequently, it's a very solitary life, which, has its rewards. But at any rate, it's wonderful to make a connection with people who know the scoop. So I'm grateful. Good night.
I'm grateful too. And I'm grateful for your comments last week when you were elucidating the beautiful women of Autonomy and all the wide range of wonderfulness. And then you said, but I also have to give credit to the male population of Autonomy, because there's a lot of guys who are real men and keep their word and know how to stand up for themselves and be assertive but polite, right? Assertive but gentle with people and those types of things too. Because when you said those things, I'm thinking about the guys that I hang out with from this course. I'm like, yes, they have all these qualities, and I'm always trying to grow my qualities as well.
Because it's a very different caliber, and I'm just thrilled. So at any rate, I congratulate you for bringing us all together, and it's people who aspire for more. So
agreed.
Yeah.
Thank you, Renee. All right, Phoenix, you were putting the fire out last time I checked, right?
Yes, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been one of the best Autonomy quests I've been a part of. I've been to a few of them, and this has been a lot of fun. I really hope everybody got all of their questions in. And if you haven't gotten your questions in, you've got like 30 seconds. But before I open
the next
one
step is
last
ask a
question.
graduate on the Blueprint call. That's where you get your questions answered. They can answer your questions. They've been through Autonomy.
There we go. So, ladies and gentlemen, let me correct something I had misspoken earlier. The classes start September 30th, not September 20th. So bear that in mind, guys. You got an extra 10 days maybe to get ready to get everything
September
set up.
20th is the concert. So we're having a preseason concert September 20th, and there's several different musical acts that are booked. They are professional, so it will not be me doing karaoke. Okay, just so you know, it's highfalutin.
why not?
Well, because then if we're looking to scatter the crowd, then yeah, I'll break it out.
So guys, remember, check the chats for all of the links. Grab those before the webinar ends, and you've got all those little goodies in there. Get your Blueprint calls set up. I really hope that a lot of you guys find all of the value that I did when I went through autonomy, and that it changes your life as well as it did mine. Rich, thank you so much for making this available. James, you've been a godsend. Thank you so much for shadow hosting with me. Leah, love you. Thank you for tapping me into this. And everybody else here, all of you guys, you're the future of this course, and you're the future of humanity. And I really, really am grateful that you're all here. And I cannot wait to see what the next 5 years is going to bring from autonomy with you guys here. So thank you very much, guys. I love you all.
Thank you all for tuning in and not dropping out. We'll see you soon.
Don't forget, question authority, refuse obedience.